Have you ever wondered how to download and share digital content legally? How do you let people know that you want them to reuse your own work? Creative Commons licenses can help you do both. We'll show you how. Our world's exploded with digital opportunities. Now we can communicate, share, and work together using the exceptional distribution network that is the Internet. Information and content can fly between us in exciting new ways. But it's important to know that when something is created, say a photo, a document, or a music track, it's automatically protected by copyright. Copyright enables people to say who can share and reuse their creations. You must always obtain someone's permission before sharing or reusing their work, even when it's posted online. But what if a creator wants everyone to use their work, without the hassle of granting permission over and over? This is where Creative Commons can help. Creative Commons provides licensing tools that are free to use. You can apply a license to your work, which refines your copyright and streamlines how you give permission. Zach here downloads a photo called CC Kiwi that he wants to use in his science project. He can do this without asking Kiri, the photographer, first, because she's already given permission with a Creative Commons license. Kiri's license is legally robust, but easy for Zach to understand. She's told the world, including Zach, that they can use CC Kiwi as long as they acknowledge her as the original photographer. There are more rules Kiri could have included. Creative Commons licenses are made up of license elements. You can think of them as rules, and each have their own special symbol. This is attribution. It means that Zach must acknowledge Kiri when he publishes his science project containing her photo. This is non-commercial. It means no one else but Kiri is permitted to make money from CC Kiwi. Tim wants to print the photo onto t-shirts and distribute them to friends. He can do this, but he must not sell them. This is no derivatives, and it means that Kiri hasn't given permission to change her photo. Kate can use CC Kiwi on her design blog, but will need to ask Kiri before retouching or mixing up the image. And this is share alike. It means new creations that use CC Kiwi need to carry the same license. Jack incorporates his own remix of CC Kiwi in his video installation, but he must share the work under the same terms that Kiri has. Each Creative Commons license gives permission to share and includes the attribution rule. So people who find your Creative Commons licensed work are automatically allowed to share it, but are required to acknowledge you if they do. The other three license elements are optional, and you can choose which ones to add, if any. Here are the 6 combinations that make up Creative Commons licenses. The difference between them is how many rules apply when someone wishes to use your work. The attribution license allows reusers the most freedom, and the attribution non-commercial no derivatives license allows the least freedom. The attribution license and the attribution share-alike licenses are sometimes referred to as Free Cultural Works approved licenses. These 3 licenses restrict commercial use of a work. And these 2 licenses do not give permission for adapting or remixing. These 2 licenses require new works to be licensed under the same terms. To choose and apply one of these licenses, and to view their terms in more detail, visit us at creativecommons.org.nz. Or you can answer some questions to help you decide which license best suits your needs at creativecommons.org/choose. There are some good ways to find other people's Creative Commons licensed work online. You can use a search filter by going to the Creative Commons website. Or why not try the Jamendo website for music, Flickr for images, or Digital NZ for New Zealand content. Using Creative Commons licenses could help your creations reach more people. Maybe you want to connect with others across the globe and take turns at improving a report. Or maybe you just want to have fun, remixing someone else's work. Whatever reason you have to share your work, you'll find there are scientists, educators, companies, and public agencies who are using Creative Commons. By opening up permission, just imagine how much we can achieve. Collaborating on what we hold in common, being open about big decisions, and finding solutions in the spaces between us. Let's work together, confidently and legally. It's good to share with Creative Commons.
Hi everybody, and welcome to the OCL Copyright Webinar for the Open Course Library Grant. I'd like to introduce Greg Grossmeyer to you. He is the Education, Technology, and Policy Coordinator for Creative Commons. So thank you for doing this, Greg, and I'm turning it over to you.
Thank you, Ro. So thank you everyone for having me. I think this came out of a quick conversation that Tom and I had when they were here at Creative Commons for a grant meeting on a different grant actually. And he thought that since I have a library background and I also work at Creative Commons, it'd be the perfect fit for a webinar with you guys, and I think it will be. So I was a librarian at the University of Michigan Library before I joined Creative Commons. Graduated from the University of Michigan School of Information before that. So I assume since you guys are calling yourselves librarians, you are actually ALA accredited librarians. So that's great. I'm glad to hear that there's such good resources available for this project. You're not just having everyone do it by themselves. There's actually real, honest to God librarians helping them. So that's a really great project. So I'm going to talk about copyright in Creative Commons and how you guys can think about it and know a little bit more so that you can answer all the questions that your faculty are having or students are having and be able to feel a little bit more confident in the answers you're getting, hopefully. So here's the outline. I'm going to do a quick overview of copyright and then move into Creative Commons, which is a system which is uses copyright, and then I'm going to do a couple plugs for a couple projects that I'm either working on or working with that directly relate to the work that you guys are doing, and they deal with metadata. So if you remember those classes in school, it's metadata for the web for these two projects. But anyways, we'll get to that in a second. So first of all, a disclaimer, I am not a lawyer and this is not legal advice. So even though I kind of play a lawyer during the day, I give people advice on copyright licensing. At the University of Michigan Library, I was a copyright specialist, which even though I didn't have a JD, meant that I was giving people non-legal guidance in their thought processes about dealing with copyright or publishing and things like that. But at the end of the day, I'm not a lawyer, and don't take what I say necessarily to the bank if you need to go to a lawsuit or something. But I'm not going to lead you astray at the same time. So here's copyright. What is copyright? So it comes from the U.S. Constitution. It's to promote the progress of science and useful arts by securing for limited time to authors and inventors the exclusive right to the respective works and discoveries. So that's the clause which gives Congress the right to make a thing known as copyright and a thing known as patents. The writings and discoveries are basically the two things that they can give protection to, copyright and patent stuff. But what really is copyright? So it's a bundle of rights. That's a good way to think about it. It's made up of a few different sticks, if you want to think about it, like a bundle of sticks. So one stick is the right to reproduce the work. The other stick is right to prepare derivatives, the right to distribute the work, the right to perform the work, the right to display the work, and the right to license any of those previous sticks to anyone else. And with those sticks, you can all those different things are what's protected by copyright. So if you're thinking about dealing with something that's protected by copyright, you can think of it within those categories, and you'll know more about how the law works with that. But how do you get copyright? Or more grammatically correct, how do you receive copyright protection for your work? Well, first it has to meet some basic requirements. It has to be original, it must have some level of creativity, and it must be in a fixed medium. So original, obvious, you can't just copy something else. That might be copyright infringement or at least plagiarism, which are two distinct different things. One might be other, but they might not be the same. It must have some level of creativity, so it can't just be something like 2 + 2 = 4. There's no creativity in that. That's purely a factual statement. There's no authorship, so that is not protected by copyright. And it also must be in a fixed medium, so it has to be recorded somehow, written down on a napkin, on a hard drive, on a piece of paper, recorded on videotape or audio tape, whatever. It can't just be ephemeral. So me talking right now, if the recording button wasn't going on right now over Collaborate, my speech, the words I am speaking right now are not protected by copyright. But since it's being recorded, that recording is protected by copyright. And in the old days, you used to have to put the little copyright symbol, provide a date, and also register it with the U.S. Copyright Office. So there was actually a registry of copyright entries. People would send a registration and pay the fee to the U.S. Copyright Office, and there would be a stamp of approval that yes, you have copyright protection for your work. Nowadays, you don't need to do any of those things. Those are known as the, now I'm blanking on the word, the formalities. We got rid of those formalities when we joined the Berne Convention, which is an international copyright treaty among many different countries around the world that kind of made a baseline requirement for copyright in all countries that signed on to it. And one of the baseline requirements is you don't need to do any of those things. You don't need to register your copyright or put the little C with a circle around it on the work. So what that means is if you were at the bar last night and you did a little doodle on the napkin, that little doodle on the napkin is protected by copyright, even if you didn't want it to be. So copyright is automatic, right? And it's instant. The instant it is recorded, the instant it is put in that fixed medium, it is protected by copyright. There is no delay. So what does copyright protect? It protects writings, choreography, music, visual art, film, and even architectural works. It also does not, but it does not protect ideas, facts, data, as long as that data, I forgot about scientific data, is made up mostly of facts, and also useful articles. Useful articles are protected by patents. That's a different set of intellectual property law. So how long does copyright protection last for? Right now, it is life of the author plus 70. For individual works, for works that are made for hire, things that are owned by a corporation, those are 95 years after the date of publication. But who knows, in the next few years we might see another extension to copyright as soon as Mickey Mouse gets close to falling into or rising into the public domain. After that, after the term of copyright is expired, things become into the public domain. The public domain being a very specifically defined thing here in the U.S. This is a concept that is actually not universal. There is not the term the public domain in all countries, but in the U.S. it is the status of a work as being not protected by copyright of any sort. There is no copyright protection for it. So what is in the public domain? So things before 1923 are pretty much, as long as they were published, in the public domain. Things between 1923 and 1963, well, that's this huge gray area. That depends on whether or not they complied with those formalities that I spoke of before, registering with the Copyright Office. And then in that time period between 23 and 63, the term of copyright had been changed a couple of times. So it depends on when it was published and how long that copyright lasts for, and if they renewed their copyright, because in that time there was a 28-year plus a 28-year renewal. So there's a bunch of it depends for that time period. Basically, if you come across something in that time period, you got to do a little bit of sleuthing. I've tried to do this a few times for a few works, and it's not the easiest thing, because you would think that the U.S. Copyright Office, which is at the Library of Congress, would have a database, an electronic database of all copyright registrations in their records, but they do not. Unfortunately, the only system that can search those, unless you go there and physically look at the books, or paid someone to go there and physically look at the books, is using, ironically enough, Google Book Search scans of copyright registry books. So you're basing your analysis off of OCR text, which isn't always the safest, but regardless, that's the situation you're in. And then the third category is works authored by the federal government. So things that are produced by the federal government, by federal government employees during their course of work, are not protected by copyright. That is explicitly laid out in the U.S. Constitution and in the Copyright Act, and in the Constitution and the Copyright Act. And that ensures that everything that is produced by the federal government by your tax dollars are available to all equally. Now there are certain situations where the U.S. government can hold copyrights to works, where if they contracted out to a third party and that third party created that work, there's a copyright in that work because Lockheed Martin produced a writing, and that writing is protected by copyright because Lockheed Martin wrote it, but then it gets transferred to the U.S. government. So there's some gray area there, but as long as it's authored by a federal government employee during their work, then it's in the public domain. So things that are not in the public domain are things that are still protected by copyright, the inverse of all that. So published after 1963 pretty much is not in the public domain, it's protected by copyright. And between 23 and 63 obviously is that the gray area again. And then state and municipal works. In the US, the states and municipalities do not have the same exemption to copyright as the federal government. I keep thinking there's one city in, I think it's Oregon, that decided that their works are in the public domain, but is by far the exception. The rule is pretty much all state and municipal works are protected by copyright. Let's see here. Over the slide there. So, right, that brings me to Creative Commons. So, copyright is kind of confusing. It can be really when you get down into the weeds of it. So, Creative Commons tries to clarify some of that confusion. So, here's a nice representation of the current world of media creation. It is, a few people taking photographs, making movies, writing a book, playing music, and a dinosaur. And back in the old days, right, before there was digital stuff, you could make a painting, create a painting, hang it on your wall, give it to a friend, or sell it for some money. But now, obviously, in the digital age, you can do all three of those things at the same time. You can print it out and hang it on your wall. You can print out a copy and give it to your friend, and you can print out another copy and sell it to someone for some money. But once someone receives that work from you, that they cannot do what they want to with it because it's protected by copyright or restricted by copyright. They are limited in the actions they can take. And that applies to all types of works, all kinds of creative works, music videos, writings, and all that kind of stuff. The things that I elucidated before about what's protected by copyright. And then, so that's where Creative Commons comes in. When authors want to tell others how they want them to be able to use it or not use it. So we provide a suite of licenses. I'm sure you all know this. There are 6 main licenses that you can apply to your work. The 6 licenses are listed right there. I'll go through those different modules one by one. So the first module is attribution, which means you can do what you want to. Just give me attribution. Cite your sources. You use my work, so just give a link back to me. Tell the world that you used my work. And all the licenses have that requirement to it. There's also the non-commercial module, which basically means only I can make money from my work. You can't use my work in a commercial manner. Then there's this concept of no derivatives. So that means you can share my work, you can make a copy of it, but you can't make a derivative of it. You can't make changes to it. So you can't take my dinosaur painting and kill my dinosaur and scribble all over the sky. But what that also means is people can't take your dinosaur painting and improve it either. So it prevents negative effects to your works, but it also prevents positive effects to your works. So that's something to keep in mind there. And then there's this concept, or the last module, of share alike. And that means that if you take my work and you make modifications to it, I don't want you to be able to license it differently. I don't want you to take my work that I have under an attribution share alike license and all of a sudden restrict other people from using it and applying a no derivatives license to it. So you can think of it like this on the kind of a genealogy way, where the source painting there down at the bottom is the painting that I shared with the world. Then if you go to the right and up a little bit, someone took that painting and made a modification to it, and that new modification, that new painting that was based off my painting, is also under attribution share alike. And then if you go to the top right again, someone takes the derivative of that new derivative is also under the same license, and it does that forever. So it kind of ensures the freedom of the work, ensures the license stays with the work no matter what. So if you take those 4 modules and you mash them together, you get 6 licenses. The math works out, I promise. And it's easy to think about those licenses on a spectrum. So here you have the some rights reserved spectrum, basically. On the far left-hand side, you have the public domain, so no copyright. There's no protections. Do whatever you want, no holds barred. On the far right-hand side, it's all rights reserved. You must ask for permission to do pretty much anything, unless it's covered by fair use, but that's a gray area as well. So in between there, though, there was nothing for the longest time. It was either no holds barred or ask for permission every single time you do something. So Creative Commons stepped in and provided those 6 licenses that fills that gap. So our least restrictive license is the attribution only license, and then attribution share alike, and then attribution non-commercial, and not attribution non-commercial share alike, attribution no derivatives, and non-commercial no derivatives. So that's kind of a good way to think about that. And for OER projects, you really only want to stick to the first couple, maybe few. You obviously don't want to use something that's under a no derivatives license, because that means that you can't, for instance, translate it or make simple modifications to better adapt to your own students' learning. So you have a textbook that needs to be, so the obvious use case is translated to a different language. That can't happen. A translation is a derivative, and if it's under a no derivatives license, it can't be translated. Also, other things, just like taking excerpts from a few different textbooks, because they all teach something in a very similar way as to how your students are best learning, or at least a subset of your students are best learning this topic. So you know how your students learn, and you're taking the best little snippets from a few of them, and you try to make your own new textbook. Well, you can't do that if those source textbooks are under a no derivatives license. So if you're trying to contribute to the OER world, we, being Creative Commons, highly recommend using the attribution only license, which actually, I believe your grant has that requirement. So you guys are A-OK. You guys are pretty much doing everything I know is pretty much right from what you're doing. So good job. Let's see. So right, the licenses come in 3 layers. So you can see here the machine readable, the human readable, and the legal code. So the most important one, kind of, is the legal code. This is the thing which gives the licenses their teeth, their actual legal standing within the court of law. This is a contract that is binding. It's been adjudicated over a few times throughout the world, so the licenses have been found to be valid. But it's also about 4 or 5 pages when you print it out. So, and just like all contracts and licenses, it has special terms and weird definitions and things like that that normal people, don't necessarily understand or want to take the time to understand. That's why we created human readable deeds of all of our licenses. We summarized that legal code. Unfortunately, we have to have that legal code so complex because that's just the way that the world unfortunately works in copyright, where you have to basically mention all these various different things, and if you don't, you run a risk of not being a valid license. So the license is long, but our human readable deed summarizes all of that. Basically, so for here, it's the attribution only license. It says you are free to share and you are free to remix as long as you give attribution. And then there's the general understanding is that there's a waiver. It does not apply to things that are in the public domain. It doesn't apply to other things like fair use or publicity rights, and very simple summarization of the legal code. And then behind that even, there's metadata. So we provide a way to describe our licenses, thus that search engines or other crawlers and web systems out there can understand in a real sense what the license permits or does not permit. So here's an example of some HTML that uses RDFA, which is a metadata format, which basically incorporates some Dublin Core terms. You can see span property DC:title. DC stands for Dublin Core. So the Dublin Core term title, this is a beautiful sushi. Dublin Core term creator, it's created by Ulrich. Dublin Core date, it has that date. But then also down here, there's a CC:license. So in the Creative Commons namespace, there's a license, and that license URL points to the license which this work is available under. So what does this do, basically? So you have on the left-hand side here what browsers normally see, right? They see a headline, subheadline, italics, some body text, and a few links. They just know they're links. They don't know anything about those links. But what humans see when they read a web page, for instance, on an article, they see title, author, publication date, the article content, and then some tags, and then a copyright license. Humans understand when they see that because they can parse English language. But if we use metadata to describe that English language thus that the machines can understand it, then we can start to do really interesting things along the lines of text mining and other things which we haven't even thought of yet. So I guess I'm going to pause right there and wait and see if there are any questions about Creative Commons or copyright before I move on to some of the metadata topics. So raise your hand or do whatever you need to do to ask a question. Looks like Elena has a question. Go ahead.
Yeah, there's a couple. Tria is also asking you to talk about fair use, but I had a question specifically about the coding, and this may be better directed to Tom. I notice he hasn't joined us yet. I'm just wondering about whether you recommend that any content that's created include those HTML tags.
Yeah, so I'll get into a little bit more specific metadata terms for educational use, but the basic term, the license term, anything that you guys create or are tagging or are publishing, republishing through this program, I would highly recommend that you use the metadata terms, including the license term, just so when other people are out there looking for high quality OER resources, they know they know that your work is available under that license, and there's no question, and the search engines can find it for them. And I'll actually expand on that answer a little bit during the LRMI section. And Tria, yeah, fair use. So fair use is kind of a touchy subject, especially for someone who not only is not a lawyer, but even if I was a lawyer, I'm not your lawyer. So fair use, in the very beginning, is a case-by-case basis. The situation and the very case-specific facts play a huge role in determining if something is a fair use or not a fair use. So I should have included that in my slides, I didn't. Let me just pull up my slides from my own crib notes when I'm talking about it. Let's see. What would be a good one? So, I have some notes here that I use when I talk about fair use. Right, so it's the 107 section of the U.S. copyright law, and it's basically thought of as a balance to copyright law. So copyright law gives creators of the work a monopoly on that work, is how you can think about it. Only they are able to do derivatives, make copies of it, share with other people, license the things to other people. All those, the bundle of rights that I listed out before, only the copyright owner or the copyright holder can do those things. So they have an effective monopoly on it. But fair use is the balance to that monopoly. So monopolies are almost inherently bad. We know that from history. The U.S. Constitution, the drafters knew that there should be effective balances to every monopoly. This is why we have antitrust law. So the antitrust law for copyright is fair use. And some of the things to think about if you're trying to determine if your use might be a fair use or not, there's actually a 4-factor test. The first factor being the nature of the original work. So whether that original work is factual or creative is kind of a spectrum you can think about. So the example I gave before about something that's not protected by copyright being 2 + 2 = 4, that is completely factual, and there's no authorship or creativity expressed there. But if I was doing a description of how a molecule behaves under certain conditions, right? Some very factual thing that I just observed from nature. Yes, there's a little bit of authorship and creativity there that might warrant copyright protection for my short description of that, but it's mostly factual. So if the original work is more factual, then the other extreme would be like a novel, something completely made up, creative work. If it's more factual versus creative, then you're more likely to be your work or your use being a fair use. The second factor is the purpose of the use. So whether or not your use is, how to put this, how you use the work. So if you are going to be just simply copying it and making without paying for another version, then that's not as potentially fair as if you were making a new derivative of it that incorporates a huge amount of other cultural works, and you make a transformative use, right? Like you took, a good example would be, what was that new novel? I think it was based off the Scarlet Letter, which is like the Scarlet Letter and zombies or something like that, where they took a work and they completely transformed it to be a work about zombies as opposed to Civil War politics. And that's a lot more transformative than just making a simple copy. The third factor is amount of the original work. So if you use 100%, you make a full-on copy of it versus making, you know, a 5% copy of it, it's more likely to be a fair use if you use less of it than more of it. And then the last factor is the effect on the market of the original work. So if what you're doing reduces the ability of the original author to extract money from their work, then it's less likely to be a fair use and more likely to not be to be copyright infringement. Now, one thing to keep in mind though is this is a 4-factor test, and even if one of them, like even if you made a 100% copy of a work, that does not mean it's necessarily not a fair use. When a judge sees a copyright case in front of them and they need to do a fair use analysis, they look at each one of these factors practically independently, and it's not like they have like a +1, -1, -1, +1, and they add them together and they see if it's a fair use or not. There's a little bit more artistic interpretation there, but you don't want to say, you know, if you do one, then you're totally lost, or if you do the other, then you're completely okay, because it really just depends on every single specific case and the facts associated with that case, because everything is different basically. You can't even talk about textbooks in general, unfortunately, because the market for these different textbooks are completely different, and different textbooks are more factual versus creative, et cetera, et cetera. So does that at all help TRIO with the fair use? I can talk a little bit more about some notable fair use cases and what it means for academics, if you would like that. Well, with the silence, I'll just go on then. So I hope that answered your question. And again, if you have any more specifics about fair use, especially in this project, the Open Course Library project, I would recommend. I don't know what the official statement is from your project managers, but I would assume that you do not want to rely on a fair use analysis on whether or not you're going to include a certain work in your open course. So I would also recommend staying away from depending on fair use, especially since within the OER, if you're sharing this work with others, their fair use analysis is not the same fair use analysis that you make. They are completely different than you. They have a different set of purposes and uses that they're going to make of that work. So it's better for them and for people consuming OER in general to avoid using works under a fair use analysis, just because it muddies the water and it makes OER almost back original to needing to figure out on a case-by-case basis if what you want to do with it is legal or not. So there's my 5 minutes, maybe a little bit more on fair use. So back to Rose's question about publishing, or I guess maybe it was Lena's question about publishing your content with the metadata terms. So there's this new project that I'm working on called Learning Resource Metadata Initiative, or LRMI for short, that is addressing that very question actually. So back in, I think it was last May, about Google, Bing, and Yahoo, and a couple other search engines got together and they started this project collaboration called schema.org, which basically addresses the problem of the varied number of metadata standards that are out there on the web right now. So there's RDSA, there's micro formats, there's tons of different versions of micro formats, and people are using these different metadata schemas in different, not necessarily consistent ways. So it's kind of a jumbled mess when you look at it on a web scale the way that Google does. So when Google indexes the web, they want to be able to understand a little bit more about that page using the metadata on that page. But if people aren't doing it consistently, or using the terms incorrectly, or using metadata terms they don't even know about, then they can't extract that information. So they tried to solve this problem the way that Google and Bing and Yahoo like to do, and they like to set a new standard. So they set a new standard. It's called schema.org. It's a microdata standard, if that means anything to you. It's basically a way of embedding this metadata terms into the HTML of the page as you're describing the works. So when that came out, though, there were no education-specific terms in their schema. It was a pretty big schema. There were a lot of terms included, but it addressed mostly the uses for the commercial world, things like, hair salon, or opening business hours, or the price of something, or how many comments there are on a blog post, or how many ratings there are, things like that. There weren't any specific terms for the educational community that would really help us. So we got a grant co-sponsored between the Gates Foundation and the Hewlett Foundation, we being the Association of Education Publishers plus Creative Commons. So Association of Education Publishers, for those that don't know, it's the big ones. It's Pearson, McGraw-Hill, all those guys, the big textbook publishers out there. We're working together on this metadata initiative. You might think it's a little bit weird or odd bedfellows, but it makes sense, because if we have a metadata schema that is only really used by the open community, then that's not really useful. Or if it's only used by the commercial community, then it's not really useful for everyone. We wanted a metadata standard that's useful for everyone in education. So that's why these two partners are actually, it makes a little bit of sense. We balance the needs of all members of the educational community. So we are also, so I guess I could, right. One of the main advantages of LRMI right now, it will be, so by the way, it'll be released hopefully the next month. We just proposed it to schema.org for inclusion. We have some conversations started about them adopting our terms. That will happen hopefully in the next few weeks. But one of the main wins for what LRMI provides users is a way to align content to competencies. We also have other terms like how long it takes the average student or normal student to complete the work, or what type of educational content it is. Is it a textbook? Is it a presentation? Is it a syllabus? Those kinds of metadata terms. But also we have a competency metadata term, which allows you to say something like, this work aligns to this competency, or teaches this competency, or assesses this competency, or requires this competency. And competencies, as we know, are becoming, I guess, all the rage in both the good sense and the bad sense in the US, with the Common Core have been adopted by most states. So for those that are unfamiliar with it, Common Core are a set of national competencies that describe various skill levels or competencies for students. So they have two different subjects right now, mathematics and then English literature is the second one. And it's things like being able to multiply two single-digit numbers. So it kind of breaks it down at that level. So you can say this chapter in a textbook teaches students how to multiply two single-digit numbers. And it also, it goes from K through 12 basically. So it covers a lot of mathematics, especially, that is important not only for K through 12 students, but also undergrad and community colleges and university students, because it applies to calculus and algebra and things like that, the basic math skills that most students need wherever they're in education. So the combination of these new Common Core standards that all states will be using and all content will really need to be aligned to, because now states, when they're doing their acquisitions of new textbooks and content, they need to prove that this content that they're buying enables their students to learn the various competencies that are required of them. So the publishers and producers of that content are really going to be sure that they can describe their content in a way that says, yes, this content applies to these 20 competencies. And you know, when you buy this textbook, for instance, that your students will, or that we promise that it will enable them to learn these 20 competencies. So this really is beneficial for the OER world, almost more so than the commercial world, in the sense that now we can search all the great OER content out there that applies to a single concept. So it's really difficult right now when you search, for instance, Google for Calc 1. I mean, Calc 1 is a huge subject, and there's various parts of it. And it'd be great if we could figure out what are the best pieces for your students, your specific students, on how to teach them Calc 1. And if you can find all those resources in a very systematic and normalized way, then you'll be much better off when you're building your new courses or releasing your courses, so that others can find the content that will help them. So that's my pitch for LRMI. It also works really well with this project from the Department of Education called the Learning Registry. This is a Department of Education project which is basically the email servers of educational metadata. So what they want to do, what they've done, is provided the plumbing, the parts that you don't really want to see but that need to be there, to allow publishers and creators and consumers to share metadata about content. So it's not actually sharing the actual content, it's sharing the metadata of the content. So one of the best use cases, the way to think about this, is if your LMS, I think you guys use Angel. If Angel had a system where you could search the Learning Registry for whatever, you can have a general keyword search, or you can use some of the LRMI terms, so you can limit it by competencies, or you can even limit it by how many teachers said they used it in their class of community college math 101 or whatever it is, right? Intro to math course. You can ask it for all these different bits of information, and then it'll spit back to you information about the content that comes up for those search queries. And then there'll obviously be a URL on where you can get that content. So for the OER context, it makes a lot of sense if you can now not only learn the facts about something, but also the usage information about something. So if also Angel, for instance, allowed professors to click a little checkbox that said, as I create courses and include content in here, share that information with the Learning Registry. Just, you know, the emissions of the classroom, right? So what that information would be is things like, this professor thought that this content, and this content both taught students something about basic math, right? And now that information is fed back into the Learning Registry, and there's a couple +1s there for that content for basic math. And then if you have a bunch of professors all sharing this information about how they use their resources, when someone else needs to look up how to teach basic math, you can sort by how many professors in the state of Washington have already used this. And if there's, you know, obviously one thing that's bubbling towards the top, that's probably pretty useful for you in the state of Washington. Or if you want to look for only stuff that is taught by community colleges, or stuff that's only taught by universities, or what have you, you can really do some amazing search capabilities on that, and hopefully it enables the faculty to do really faster content creation and course creation when they know a little bit more about the content that they can provide. Right, so this is a little blurb about Learning Registry. I should have pushed forward a little bit earlier. So we're coordinated with the LRMI project. One of the lead on the Learning Registry is actually on the LRMI Technical Working Group, so we're in pretty constant conversation. We're good friends, so that works really well. So with that, I think I covered 4 pretty big areas. So how copyright, Creative Commons, and metadata can apply to education and make this whole OER world a little bit more sane is what I hope. Any questions?
Greg, there were a couple of questions in the chat box, one from Quill and then another one from Susan. Can you see those?
Yeah, I'm sorry. My chat wasn't scrolling down. I was curious why no one was chatting while I was talking. So, right, I got the fair use, and then let me scroll up here and look at those real quick. Want to clarify, in the beginning of your talk, when you define useful articles as something that was outside of copyright, and you're talking about what I would commonly call an invention rather than a creative work. Is that a good way to define it? Yeah, that's kind of how the law talks about the distinction there. So a useful article is something that has been invented by someone, or possibly even just discovered by someone, that is protected by patents. So you have everything from how to make a great new chair, something that's been invented, to even, unfortunately, in my opinion, my personal opinion, genes can be patented even though they're just discoveries. So there's that distinction there. Basically, I don't know enough about patent law to really get into the specifics about with what is patentable and what is not necessarily. Just know that it is a huge and murky area, and those lawyers even get paid more than copyright lawyers. So that's something to add there. So Susan, Greg, adding a CC BY license does not mean the material cannot have a copyright, correct? The copyright indicates the attribution does not restrict the use as long as the copyright holder then licensed under CC BY. Right, exactly. That's a very good point. Creative Commons licenses don't actually work unless the work is protected by copyright in the first place. So you can't apply a Creative Commons license to Shakespeare's work. That stuff is in the public domain. It's not protected by copyright. The license doesn't even apply. It's pretty much null and void. So you can't restrict something that's in the public domain like that. So many times, actually, to answer your question a little bit more, you'll see on web pages or other documents, it'll say, C with a circle, 2012, Greg Grossmeyer, released under the terms of the Creative Commons Attribution License. Pretty much just like what you typed out there. So that's exactly accurate, and that's totally okay. If that's how you guys are marking up your material, that's 100% great. That's actually a little bit better than just saying this material is available under the Creative Commons Attribution Share Alike license, because you're giving a date that it was published and who it was published by, the name of the author, which is important information, maybe not this year, but in 80 years, when it's potential that that work is in the public domain, you'll know that this work was published in 2012, thus in 20, or I guess it's 70 years after I died, so whatever year that's going to be, that could be in the public domain. So that's really good information to put there. More information, always better. Any other questions?
If also the librarians for the project are online as well, and so if you have any questions for us, feel free to ask as well.
Yeah, so I guess I know just enough about the OCL project to promote it, and also, just to get me in trouble, basically. So, you guys, the stipulation is that each course can only require the students to purchase $30, I think it is, in textbooks or in course materials. Thus, a way to make that happen, to make students be able to only spend $30 on course materials. You're looking for OER materials that are applicable to that course. So that's awesome. And then you're making the courses, the content, kind of the completed courses that you've created under that stipulation publicly available under the attribution-only license. So I guess my question is, when you're going out there looking for material, what kind of limitations are you putting on yourself for what can be included with that? Are you only limiting yourself to stuff that's under a Creative Commons license, or are you also allowing people to include things that are free but not under a Creative Commons license?
We're doing, I think, a little bit of both. We're also going out, things that aren't licensed under Creative Commons, we're often just finding the owners of copyright and asking for permission for things as well. So it's really pretty mixed. Would the rest of you agree with that?
Yeah, I've gotten permission from copyright owners to distribute their work for the purposes of this class, and they still maintain full copyright on the work, but allowing us to distribute and allowing students access to the material.
That's great. That's actually really awesome that you are going back and contacting copyright holders and asking for permission like that, enabling them to see that their content is actually really useful and would be really useful in a less restricted way. Hopefully they get the hint. But that's awesome, even if you just get the permission just for your one course. So Susan had a question about the HathiTrust suit. So that's really funny because when I worked at the University of Michigan Library, I was the project manager for the Orphan Works project for the HathiTrust, which, if you read the lawsuit that the Authors Guild has against the HathiTrust, was kind of one of the main sticking points that they had. They were really upset about the Orphan Works project. For those that aren't aware, Orphan Works are works that are protected, restricted by copyright, but you can't find the copyright owner who holds that copyright anymore. So copyright doesn't just disappear when the person disappears or when their heirs disappear. So you could theoretically be in a situation where no one has a legal right to hold the copyright to a work, but the work is still restricted by copyright. So even if you wanted to ask permission, you couldn't, no matter how much research you did. So we being the University of Michigan, we're trying to find a way to quickly identify possible orphan works. And we instituted a plan, and we did that, and we hadn't yet opened up any works, so we released a list of works that we thought were potential orphans. And just releasing that list was enough to annoy the Authors Guild, and they brought suit. But to answer your question directly, does that affect the OCL? Not at all. Nothing that you all are doing should be affected by either the Authors Guild versus HathiTrust suit or the Authors Guild and American Association of Publishers versus Google suit. So that's kind of the overarching lawsuit right now, is the publishers and the Authors Guild are suing Google over simply scanning the works and making the Google Book Search program. Both of those are ongoing suits. They're not going to be decided this year even. It's going to be a while. But you can, if you're looking for content that's in the HathiTrust from the University of Michigan in that database, you can still do that, and you can. The only stuff that the HathiTrust makes open for web viewing is content that is in the public domain, or that we know we have the rights to make open. So things in that category are content that, for instance, the University of Michigan Library Publishing Department has published. So the University of Michigan Library publishes journal articles and books and things like that, and we know that those works we have the rights to make open. So even if they're in the HathiTrust, those are open. So basically summarizing, if you find anything in the HathiTrust that you can access and you can view in full view, that stuff is okay for you. I would recommend downloading a copy of, for instance, a public domain book or textbook or whatever it is, if you find something that's useful, just so that you have a copy of it. And not saying that the HathiTrust is ever going to go away. It's actually most likely, even if the lawsuits go badly, it probably won't go as badly as to completely destroy the HathiTrust. So it'll always be there as a resource, but better safe than sorry to have a copy of the stuff that you want to use year after year. Yeah, I hope that answers your question.
Okay, are there any other questions, either for Greg or for the project librarians?
You're very welcome, Amy. Have a good class.
So Greg, do you want to address the question about the question that Susan had about the independent authors, filmmakers releasing materials to us, and the question of whether that decreases any commercial rewards. Susan, I just want to share one of my experiences in requesting permission for some online films that we were using for the drama class. These were African examples of like African acting, traditional African theater, and of course this may not be the case. It may not be the case with everyone, but they were seemed very excited about having their materials exposed to audiences that they may not previously have known of through the course, through this open course library project. So hopefully that will be the response.
Yeah, the only thing I could add to that is it's really a case-by-case basis for all these producers of content. We have the kind of a similar example to yours, Marina, is the similar example there is at the University of Michigan. We have Ojibwe professors that are really keen on sharing their content that they've created, all their videos and things like that. So they see it as a plus for them. But then of course you have, so for instance, like a filmmaking class or a film studies class. They're going to be probably talking about works that are protected by copyright from big name publishers or something of the sort. And that's just not a way that you're probably just not going to be able to get that content available for free for those students, especially not under an open license. And that's just a harsh reality. I would encourage people to create the openly licensed film class, film studies class, but that probably won't happen anytime soon. Yeah, I would be completely honest with the people that you're talking to about licensing their content. If you're asking them for permission to license their work under a Creative Commons license, they need to be fully aware of that and agree to it. If you're just asking for permission to share their content to the students, what are the terms of the permission that you're asking for? As long as they're made aware of it and agree in good faith, and there was a meeting of the minds, as they like to say, then you're okay. I wouldn't obviously try to mislead anyone just to make their stuff more open.
Right on. Thanks, Greg. Unless there's any other questions, I just wanted to thank you for taking the time to meet with us online and share all of this really, really awesome, good information. And yeah, we may be emailing you with questions.
Awesome. You're very welcome. And yeah, my email is always open. And maybe I may have a few day delay sometimes, but feel free to email me. I didn't put my email there just for show. Please feel free to contact and keep up the good work. And I'm excited to be involved in whatever little way I can with this great project. So thank you.
You're welcome. And so everybody, we're when we are done recording, we're gonna email out the link to everybody to this this meeting. Unfortunately, we were actually, I think we did probably start about 5 minutes earlier than 9:30, but we'll be able to, those of you who came in a little bit late should be able to catch those 5 minutes on the recording. Thanks, everyone.
I'm just going to say thank you again and goodbye. I'm going to sign off now. So it looks like you guys are going to have a quick little librarians discussion. Take care.
What is up, my beautiful ninja family? In this video, I'm gonna be showing you how this weird top 10 fastest trains in the world video made over $117,000 profit. And the most important part, how anyone, anywhere, even if you have zero experience and zero subscribers, can start making money today on YouTube without making any videos yourself. I promise you this is gonna be a good one. Stay tuned. All right, guys, so in this video, we're gonna be showing you how to make $100 or more, right? The examples that we're gonna give in this video, these people are making way more than $100 per day, literally making videos on YouTube without doing any of the recording yourself. You don't have to be on camera. You literally don't have to do anything. All you have to do is remake videos that you're allowed to use, right? This is 100% legit. I did all the research. There's something called Creative Commons that we're gonna show you and talk about a little bit later in this video. I'm gonna show you guys how you can start making a ton of money from YouTube, literally just re-uploading videos that are already on YouTube. Because I know a lot of people don't have cameras, a lot of people don't want to get in front of a camera, but anyone, anywhere with zero subscribers can start to do this and start to make a ton of money doing it. So most people think that you're not actually allowed to just reuse YouTube content and other people's content that they upload on YouTube. People think that there's copyrights. People think that they're not allowed to actually reuse that. And a lot of times that is actually true, but not always. There's something called Creative Commons, and what Creative Commons is it allows anyone, anywhere to reuse the video content that people upload to YouTube if they mark it as Creative Commons. And the cool thing is it's actually very easy to figure out what is Creative Commons and what is not Creative Commons if you know how. But as a warning, guys, do not skip any of this video because there's one critical thing that you absolutely have to know to be able to make this work. And I know some people are gonna skip parts of the video or skip to the end and things like that. You are not going to make this work unless you know every step, because there's one critical mistake that a lot of beginners make. And if you don't make that mistake, then you can actually go on to really start making a ton of money. Like, again, this video right here that made over $117,000 profit. And if you don't believe me, I'm going to prove it to you in just a few minutes. All right, so I wanna show you guys just a few examples of actually people who are doing this. So we're gonna share my screen really quick. And what we're looking at right here, literally all I typed in was just scariest, right? So like scariest, you can see 6.5 million views, 13 scariest videos found on the dark web, right? You see 6.8 million views 7 years ago, top 10 most disturbing, scariest Courage the Cowardly Dog episodes, right? But you can do this for anything. Like you can literally just search top 10, right? And you can look at all of these different things right here. You can see 4.4 million views, right? Two months ago, 1.2 million views, 165 million views, all of these different videos, and you can enter things, you can enter all types of things. My favorite things to actually enter are things that have to do with fitness, conspiracy theories, sports, right? Fort memes. Things that people actually search all the time, right? So you're saying to yourself probably, Kevin, yeah, these people have millions of views, but how are they actually making money, right? And we're gonna talk about exactly how much money 1 million views generally is for most of these YouTubers and how much they're actually bringing in, from a profit perspective. Because according to Business Insider, right, most YouTubers average about $3 CPM. And what that means is how much you get paid per 1,000 views. So if a video has 1 million views, right, and you're getting paid $3 per 1,000 views, you're getting paid $3,000 US, 100% profit, right, for every 1 million views that you actually have. And so here's another example, right? Top 10 fastest trains in the world, 2018. It's literally a compilation of the fastest trains in the world. You can see a year ago, it has 39 million views. And so if we pop up the calculator right here, we can see 39 million views times $3,000, like I just proved to you, right? They're getting paid $3,000, and that's pretty much minimum, guys. $3,000 per million views, so 39 million times 3,000 is $117,000 profit for literally uploading a train video, top 10 fastest trains in the world. So you're probably saying to yourself, okay, Kevin, how do I figure out which of these videos I can actually use, and then how do I actually make money doing it? Well, that's a good question, and the way that you actually do it is by using what's called Creative Commons. So every time that I actually type something into YouTube, what I can do is come to filter right here, and then I can literally type in Creative Commons, right? So what Creative Commons means is it means that you can actually download these videos, right? And if you don't know how to download a YouTube video, all you have to do is Google search how to download a YouTube video, right? There's MP4 downloaders. It's very, very easy to do. And once you filter for Creative Commons, like I just did, it's gonna show you videos. any video that pops up with the Creative Commons filter on. And as a little note, every time you do a new search, you want to make sure that it's on, because sometimes it actually turns itself off. But you can see that it's obviously on right here. Every single one of these videos is free to use, right? So I could literally download this exact video with 39 million views, and maybe I could download some other top 10 fastest train compilations that are also Creative Commons. And what I can do is I can reorganize, right? I can use a free editing software like iMovie, like a ton of different editing software, and you can re-upload the same video with a different thumbnail and a different title, right? All you need is an eye-catching thumbnail and a well-organized title, right? Top 10 fastest trains in the world 2018. There isn't a top 10 fastest trains in the world 2019, right? People always want to see the most recent actual thing that they're looking for on YouTube. So what are actually the most profitable niches and topics to actually do this for, right? Because you can make top 10 compilations, top 3, top 5 for anything, but there's a few actual categories where you are going to make the most money. And if you're saying to me, Kevin, but I have 0 subscribers, I'm just starting, how do I actually make this work? Every single one of these people who does this, right, when you look on YouTube, start to actually think about it. These people are uploading these top 5 and top 10s not because they love doing it. They're doing it because YouTube is paying them thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars to do this. And all you have to do is get one video that goes viral with the YouTube algorithm, right? It was free for this person to create this 6-minute compilation. It probably took them a couple hours. They downloaded different videos from around YouTube, and they actually just created a compilation, a top 10. They re-uploaded it, added a cool thumbnail, added a cool title, and they were on their way. But what are actually the best niches and topics to do this for? Because if you choose the wrong topics, no one's gonna watch it, and if no one watches it, you're not gonna make any money. So let's talk about what the actual best topics are to do these compilations for. But really quickly, I do wanna give a huge shout out to our comment winner. Yay! And if you wanna be the comment winner and get a shout out on our next video, all you have to do is 3 simple things. You gotta tap that like button, make sure that you do subscribe to The Strongest Family on YouTube, and leave a comment down below letting me know what you are struggling with right now. If you're making money online, if you're just getting started, let me know where you're at so I can personally help you on your journey to start making more money online. Okay, so what actually are my favorite things to make these compilations about? Realistically, the best things that people are constantly watching every single day are fitness, right? People love conspiracy theories. Like if we type in conspiracy, we can see, 549,000, 841,000, 2.4 million, right? Lots of different actual videos here, 15 million, top 10 conspiracy theories of all time. People love watching this stuff. It's the strangest thing, but they actually do, right? People love watching sports highlights. So if you go into here, like top 10 sports, and then we go filter, Creative Commons, you can see 5.6 million views, the best jumpers in the world, right? You can see Vlogbrothers, you can see lots of different stuff to actually take a look at here, and you can do top 10 sports compilations, highlights, best dunks. There's so many different things you can actually make video about. So sports is another one that I really love. Recent news, right? If things go viral, gaming is probably the #1 thing that people are actually watching videos on YouTube. So if you type in gaming here, you can also type in like popular games, like Fortnite, for example. And you can also use things that Google and YouTube tell you are popular. So we can see right here that there's actually a YouTube trending. And to find this, all I did was Google search YouTube trending. And you can see YouTube trending literally for gaming, and you know what people are actually watching, right? 2 million views in 19 hours, 1.1 million views in 20 hours. Like literally you can see these things that people are watching, and then you can literally remake ones of videos without making any videos yourself, just with compilations and reposting videos that have Creative Commons and allow you to do it, right? This is not shady at all. You're not gonna get shut down. YouTube is 100% okay with this. All you have to do is make sure that they're actually Creative Commons so that you can reuse the footage. And another cool tool that you can actually use to see how much money these people are making from their YouTube channels, and we can use a big YouTuber like RiceGum, for example. What we can do is we can take his YouTube username, and we can go to a site called Social Blade. So what Social Blade does is it'll actually show you an estimate of how much money that they're making. So he's making estimated $1.8 million from YouTube every single year, and that's probably lower than he actually is, right? Because my estimated earnings, if we go to mine right here, So we're gonna select my channel right here. And what we're gonna do is, so this is actually the monthly earnings, and I only know the correct monthly earnings of my channel. I don't know what RiceGum's actually making. I've never asked him, but I know that from what this estimates my monthly earnings are, I know that it's actually realistically about 4 or 5 times higher than that. So if RiceGum's was 4 or 5 times higher than that, then he could be making, you know, up to $10 million a year from his YouTube channel. And obviously he has a massive channel, but Social Blade is a really cool tool that you can see to estimate how much people are actually making from YouTube with their channels based on the amount of views. All right, guys, so let's summarize really quick. So how do you actually do this, right? The best way that you do this is you go into YouTube and you literally search for popular videos that have the Creative Commons license, which is totally free to reuse in whatever way you want. And then you make better versions of their videos. You make a better thumbnail, you make a better keyword-rich title, and then you re-upload that video, right? Maybe you see 10 different compilations of the fastest trains in the world, and maybe, you know, number 2 is lame, maybe number 3 is lame. And so what you do is you make a better master version of all of those already popular videos, and then you re-upload it. And your first video might not be perfect, and your second video might not go viral, but I have friends who are literally making hundreds of thousands of dollars doing this exact strategy, and they all started with 0 experience and 0 subscribers. And so all you have to do is just get started and try to put out, you know, 1 or 2 videos a day where you're just downloading them, making them better, re-uploading them, having better thumbnails, right? And you can get thumbnails made on Fiverr.com for literally $5, right? There's no excuses, guys. You can do this. People are doing it every single day. Just don't be the 99% of people that never takes any action, right? Be the 1% who actually tries this stuff and actually makes it work. Because remember, all you have to do is just remake better videos that have the Creative Commons license, upload them, and watch the views start coming in, because there's millions and millions of people on YouTube every single day. And this is an amazing way to start making money online, to start making $100 a day on YouTube with 0 money to start. All right, guys, so last thing, if you enjoyed this video, make sure you do me a favor, tap the little like button. It helps me reach more people. It helps me reach more people who can actually start to use these strategies to make more money online. And make sure that if you haven't, tap that little subscribe button, turn on the notification bell so that you will be the first person to know when we release a brand new video on how to make money online and how to be financially free this year. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Leave me a comment down below letting me know what you're struggling with. Leave me a comment down below letting me know if you've ever made even a single dollar online, or if you need help, and I'm gonna try to personally respond to every single comment down below that you guys leave, helping you on your path to financial freedom. So until next time, guys, happy hustling.
Hey, what's up guys, and welcome to the video. And in today's video I'm going to be showing you how to make money on YouTube without making any of your own actual videos, other people's videos. And that is how I managed to get this golden plaque and 5 over 100,000 silver plaques from YouTube. I'm going to jump on the computer now. I'm going to show you guys exactly how to do it. We're not going to babble around the bush. We're going to go straight to the point and show you exactly how you can make a lot of money without doing barely any work and not even making any of your own videos. Right guys, so I'm back on the computer now, and as you can see, we're going to be showing you exactly how and what you got to do, you can make a lot of money on YouTube without making any videos. So we're going to split this down into a couple of topics, and I'm going to show you a couple of examples of what you can actually do. So the first thing I'm going to do is type in satisfying video, as you can see here, and give that a search. And as you can see, a bunch of videos come up here. Now I'm going to filter this to this month, and I'm going to filter it to the most viewed. And you can see these views now, all of these views. These are all within the last 4 weeks of the last month. And there's millions and millions and millions and millions of views on these videos. And to be honest with you, they're none of their own videos. So these channels don't probably make the videos. There's going to be some like this one here, I'm pretty sure they make it. But most of these guys usually have permissions or post videos without actually making them themselves. And just to give you an example of how much these guys are making, right? So let's take this video here, for example. It's got 4.8 million views in 2 weeks. It's 10 minutes long. That's probably made them about $10,000, right, off one video. But if we go to their channel, as you can see here, they're going to have hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of these videos, which they're going to be posting every single day, like pretty much once every 2 days, probably. As you can see, well, okay, they're posting every other day. But every single one's getting millions and millions of views. And they don't film these videos. I'm pretty certain that they don't film these videos. And a bunch of all these other compilations are not their own original videos. So how much money did they make in total, you're probably asking. Well, if you go to socialblade.com, you can pretty much go to the website and you can get a rough estimate of how much these channels are actually making. So we're going to use that channel we just showed you and have a quick search and see how much they're making. So they're getting 53 million views a month, and the minimum they can possibly make is $17,000 per month, and the maximum they can make is $273,000 per month. On my expectation and what I'm predicting, they're probably going to be making $100,000 a month from these videos, which, like I said, are not their own footage, and they probably have licenses or permissions to make these videos. So you're probably thinking, well, you don't have the licenses, so how are you going to do it? How can you make these videos? Well, here's where I tell you exactly how you can do it. So if you go to YouTube and type in satisfying video, you can filter it, again, to whatever you want to do. If we just take off all the filters and just leave it to relevance, and then basically click on Creative Commons. Now, if you guys don't know what Creative Commons means, it literally says on the video. So for example, all these videos now are Creative Commons, right? So if I click on one of these videos and I go in the description of this video, you can literally says Creative Commons attribution license reuse allowed. You're physically allowed to reuse this video. If you click on it, you can see the whole rules of Creative Commons, how it allows you to do it. And it literally says right in front of you, you don't need permission from them to use their work. You can use it under Creative Commons license. So all of these videos, which I showed you, which are under Creative Commons, you're allowed to use. You're allowed to re-upload them and make money from them. Now, here's where it becomes a little bit problem. So if this is Creative Commons, they can't actually claim you either. So because they're putting their content on Creative Commons, they can't claim you, meaning they're not allowed to strike you, or they're not allowed to claim the video. What I would highly suggest, which a lot of other people I've seen make these type of videos, what haven't suggested is YouTube have recently just introduced a new rule, YPP rule, of pretty much what they do and don't allow. Now, if I go to YouTube's website and go to YouTube and type in duplication, as you can see, there's loads and loads of articles of pretty much how YouTube are cracking down on duplication, and they're not adding any whatsoever difference to the original video. So for example, if you download this video and re-upload it, your diff video is no different to this video. Like, it is just re-uploaded. Even though you're allowed to re-upload it, you've got to make it different somehow. So what I would suggest you doing is essentially adding your own watermarks, adding your own intros, and maybe adding a little bit of voice just over it, just like I'm talking of this video. You know, maybe just like today I'm going to be showing you guys, you know, the best satisfying videos on YouTube or something like that. And that is then classed as your own work, right? You've added some value to the video. You can see here we are on the YouTube AdSense guidelines. Now, this is the thing you want to look at and how you're going to make money. A lot of people don't show you this, so this is very important. But as you can see, reuse content. This is content that doesn't provide significant original commentary or educational value. It may also mean that we've identified the larger mentioned portion of your channel either completely match content or is notably similar. So for example, like I said, pretty much this rule means that you've just pretty much just gone to Creative Commons, even though you're allowed to, and download it and re-upload it and try to monetize it. Now, you could do this in the past, and you still can, but chances are with this new rules coming in, they're saying that they're cracking down and tightening this and making sure that you add some sort of original commentary or original value to the original video, so you're not just re-uploading it. So that's one example of something you can do. And this is just one topic. There's many topics you can do, but that's just one example. So the next example is the same type of thing. You know, it's just not in the satisfying genre. But if you go onto YouTube and type in funny videos, so you've probably seen a lot of try not to laugh challenges, all of those type of videos are going to come up. And if you, again, click Creative Commons, and all these videos here are legally allowed to be re-uploaded and reused. So all of these videos here are classed as Creative Commons. Okay, so if you upload these videos, all you have to do then is pretty much just, if you ever had any problems, you would just link back to the original video, like this one here, for example, and you just say, well, you know, I use this because it's under Creative Commons, as you can see here. Oops, that's a bit too loud. It says reuse allowed. You just link them back to this, and I'd also take proof of the screenshot. I'd screenshot this page just to prove that when you took it, they have Creative Commons on, right? So same type of thing, you know, you can go down here and you can take all these videos here, pretty much, and you can re-upload them. So for example, if I go onto this video here, this guy running on a treadmill, for example, gym fails compilation, right? So these videos are under Creative Commons. You can reuse these. So you can download this video and react to it or make original commentary, like I said. Now, just to give you an example of what type of people do this and make a lot of money, this is quite a big genre right here. So if we go to Try Not to Laugh, because you can name them Try Not to Laugh, right, because they're funny videos. This month, 13 million. There's loads and loads and loads and loads and loads of videos on this topic, which you can just redo. Like, you can react to it. Obviously, if you don't want to do too much work, then you can just talk over it, right? Just add a bit of commentary at the beginning, your own logo, your own watermark, and you're off. And these videos get 30 million, 13 million, loads and loads and loads of views. Like, there's thousands of views. And if we go to this year, some of them got close to 100 million, right? So there's a channel here called Funny Vines. Obviously, I'm going to show you what type of money they make, to give you kind of an idea of what you can potentially make from doing this. So if we search in their channel here and take a look at their Social Blade, which shows you how much they make, then we're going to see that they are currently making quite a lot of money. Just wait for this page to load. And there we go, Funny Vines. Okay, so they are getting 44 million views a month, right? Which, again, you can see the averages here. I'm going to predict about $80,000 a month this channel's making. You know, could be more, could be less. The fact that their videos are like 11 minutes long and 30 minutes long, 30 minutes long, and some of them on their channel are probably like 20 minutes long, tells me that they're going to be making a lot of money. And if they're smart, which they definitely are, every single video is over 10 minutes, because if you go to a video, you can have mid-roll ads. See, you can place ads throughout the video. So these are just two examples of how you can make a lot of money on YouTube without posting any of your own videos, right? You don't need to film these videos. They're already out there to use. You just put them together, make compilations, and then you can make money from it. Now, there's other types of content as well which you can make money from. There is hundreds of types. I'm just going to briefly show you this one. This is more to a younger audience, but these views on these videos are insane. I'm going to make another video on this completely. I actually made money from doing this myself. I made over $100,000 last year from making these type of videos, which I'm about to show you, which I'm also going to make another video on soon. But just to give you some sort of idea of what I'm talking about, kids videos, the views on these, if we change it to this year, some of them have billions of views, hundreds of millions of views, right? Hundreds of millions. And this channel here called Coco Melon, it's an actual animation channel, but the fact of it is, you know, there's somebody here literally playing with balloons in their hand. You know, you don't need to make animations. The fact is, you know, just naming it similar can also get you views. But I'm just going to show you this channel here, for example, which posts little animations of nursery rhymes, which I'm also going to show again in another video. But this channel has 2 billion views a month, so they're getting. I'm predicting about $5 million per month, which is insane. And again, this channel here, the one I showed you, this balloon one where they're just playing with balloons in their hand, by the look of it, I'm going to go to their page. Alone, that one video would have made them about $1 million because it's got 400 million views. But their channel isn't found. But we can go to their channel and we can see that they have hundreds of videos. 5 million subscribers almost from just making videos with balloons and stuff. And again, same thing again, you know, in every single category of videos, you don't need to make these videos yourself, guys. You don't need to do it. You can if you want to, but you don't need to. If I type in kids videos, or even better, if we're going to predict, you know, make something similar to this, we can type in balloons and then filter it to Creative Commons. And then all of these videos are allowed to be reused as long as you add original commentary. Balloons, and then we can put kids or anything like that. And then there's hundreds of, not wrong page. There's hundreds of videos here which you're allowed to reuse. You can physically reuse these guys and talk over them as long as you add original commentary. So, you know, you've got a Finger Family song here, and you've got some Learning Color dolls, and you've got some balloons here. And that's exactly the same as this channel here. There's no difference really. You know, they just make their own, but you can also do it. And you have hundreds of millions of views on these videos. So, guys, these are just a couple of ideas what you can do, but have a look for YouTube, have a look, find categories. One more, which I'm just going to show you because I'm getting carried away a bit, but ASMR, a big new trend, a very big trend of satisfying sounds and stuff. Millions and millions and millions of views, right? All you've got to do, go to Creative Commons, and then you can reuse all these videos. Every single one you can reuse. as long as you add original commentary, which links me back to the YouTube policy. Make sure you follow this policy and kind of create a brand whilst doing it. As long as you're, reusing the video, adding your own commentary, adding your own watermarks and stuff like that, there is no reason why you're not allowed to use these videos, because the class is under Creative Commons. So this girl here, I'm assuming, has enabled it to be reuse allowed. Again, you can reuse this video. Physically allowed to reuse it. You can talk over it, give your thoughts, give your reaction if you want to. Just video yourself reacting to the video, because you're physically allowed to do that. It's a license. It's a legal license from YouTube, and they have a whole page dedicated to it. So I'm going to put this page in the description below, Creative Commons. You can read through it. You can write all your frequently asked questions about fair use and Creative Commons, everything like that, and you can really find out more information on that page down in the description below, so make sure you check that out. So I hope you guys enjoyed the demonstration. If you do this properly, you can make a lot of money, and you can also build a very big empire on YouTube. Like I said, I've got a 1 million subscriber plaque from doing this, and I also have 100,000 subscriber plaques. You can see in my other videos that I have all of these, and I've got all that from doing what I've just showed you on the computer there. Adding original commentary, adding logos, adding watermarks, reusing content what is allowed to be legally reused. Or you can get permission yourself, but if they're already giving you permission from that, you don't need it. You just need to add some kind of original commentary to it. So you don't have to make any videos, and you can make hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars. Everyone's a winner there, guys. So if you enjoyed this video, be sure to subscribe to my channel for more videos. Like I said in the video I just posted on the computer, I'm going to be showing you guys more in depth about this. This is a very popular topic which I want to speak about, and it's very, very in depth. There's so many ways you can make money online without posting any videos. And if you want to know how, stay tuned to this channel. I'm going to be showing you all the time new ways of making money all the time. So thank you for watching, guys, and make sure to subscribe and don't miss the next video. Take care.
Gallagher here. If you want to grow your channel quick and easy, subscribe and smash that notification bell, because I share with you all the tips, tricks, and strategies that I use to grow this dead channel from 0 to thousands of subscribers, and became a YouTube partner in just a matter of months. My people, in this video, I'm going to revisit a video I did a few weeks ago so I can add a few things to help ensure that YouTubers that do this don't run into some issues. And since we're talking about using YouTube videos to generate income, here's another option for you, one that I actually use, where you use a simple method to rank YouTube videos for high volume keywords that have very low competition. And then you just link those videos to a high converting offer that generates automated income, as you can see here in one of my accounts. And this just keeps going on and on and on. So if you're interested in setting up your own income generating videos like this, I put a link in the description below. But for this video, I wanted to go over a few things with regard to making money without creating your own videos at all. So let's revisit the method real quick. So if you go to channels like these, let's go to find a compilation. So like top 5 roller coasters or whatever. So these type of channels, there's a lot of them. And so here's Trend Central, this one video, 15 million views. And we go to Social Blade. And so on Social Blade, I've uploaded their channel, Trend Central, and you can see here they've got 2.1 million subscribers. But right here, their estimated monthly earnings based on all the views they're getting, which is quite a lot, is anywhere from $5,000 a month to $80,000 a month estimated. So usually it's somewhere in between that. And again, this is just from posting compilation videos. And so in this case, we search for roller coaster, top 5 roller coasters, and you can see we also have, in addition to Trend Central, we have top 5 Central, top 5s. So there's all sorts of these channels where they just do compilations of other people's videos, and they mash them all together. Maybe they put commentary or music over it, and they're good to go. Like, YouTube's not banning their channel at all. And how I mentioned in the previous video, how they're able to get away from this is through Creative Commons. And what Creative Commons is, it's a license that other YouTubers give you to reuse, repost their content. So first, let's see what YouTube has to say about Creative Commons. So this is right through support at Google. We all know Google owns YouTube. And this is right there, YouTube Answers, YouTube Help, Creative Commons. And if you read through this, it's going to tell you exactly what I said, where by marking your original video with a Creative Commons license, you are granting the entire YouTube community the right to reuse and edit that video. And so how people do this, how they set it for Creative Commons, is if you go into your video editor and you go down here to Advanced Settings and you click on that, and right here under License and Rights Ownership, you can see it defaults to standard YouTube license. Well, if you click this, it's going to give you this other option, Creative Commons Attribution. So that's exactly what YouTube was talking about, we just looked at, where if someone marks their licenses their video under Creative Commons, they're saying, hey, go ahead and repost this. I'm cool with that. So then all you'd have to do is go to YouTube, and let's say we wanted to do a compilation of roller coasters. So you type in roller coaster, and then under here under filter you click that, and then over here under features you click Creative Commons. So YouTube is going to eliminate all other videos except for those licensed as Creative Commons. So you can go through here and create a compilation out of all of these videos and make your own video out of it, and you should be good to go. The problem is some of these YouTubers don't actually own the content. So you can still earn yourself a copyright strike, which happens. PewDiePie's gotten copyright strikes before, so it does happen. It's not necessarily the end of the world, but you don't want to get a bunch of them because then obviously your channel can go away. Here's a couple things you can do to help prevent this from happening. One, you can look at channels that have been around a long time. So channels with a lot of subscribers, and right now I have vidIQ installed, so it's giving me their subscriber count right here. So what I would do is I'd go through and find, again, a channel with a lot of subscribers because they're more likely to be legit channels and have their own content. So the other thing you can do is actually look at the videos and see if it looks like the person that created the video is the same person that owns the channel. So, you know, if the same people that are in the video or in multiple videos, that's a good indication that, yeah, they own this content. But even if they're not the original creator, they may be posting it because they got it from someone else that had it listed as Creative Commons. So it's still not a bad thing if you can't determine if that's the original poster of the video. But here's something I would do to help ensure that you're not going to get hit with a copyright strike. As you start creating these compilation videos, I would keep all the links to the channels and to the videos. I'll put those in the description as a source for all the clips in your compilation video. Then at the very beginning of my video, I would either state verbally, or I would have a written notice, or I would do both, and I would say just at the very beginning of the video, the content in this video was licensed by other YouTubers under Creative Commons. If you own any of the content used in this video and did not agree to share this content under Creative Commons, please contact me. I have also provided a list of source channels below. Thank you. So what you're doing is telling them, hey, I did what I'm supposed to do. I got this video through Creative Commons. The other thing you're doing is, hey, please contact me. You could even add, I will help report this to YouTube with you. And then the other thing you're doing is pointing to the real perpetrator, right? The people that you got it from. So that will make a huge difference. It can really help ensure that you don't get the copyright strike. So I just wanted to point that out because, again, you do stand a risk doing this, even though it's protected under Creative Commons, because other people are violating the terms of that. You could potentially suffer, and I don't want that to happen. So just make sure if you do this, take every precaution necessary to protect your channel. So I hope that helps you out. I'm going to wrap this up, and I will see you in the next video.
The Arab world has countless creative people and intellectuals that can inspire us with their writing, art, music, research, and discoveries. Such creativity is a treasure that should be shared with the world. A lot of creative people want to share their ideas so they can grow and develop. This piece of writing is brilliant. Can we work together? Wow! Can we sample your tune? Oh, look at this. May I share your art on my blog? How genius. Can I use your formula? The internet makes this possible, but strict copyright regulation sometimes gets in the way. Meet Creative Commons. Creative Commons encourages content creators to collaborate and share their work with others. This way, together, we can maximize the power of the internet, nurture a spirit of innovation, and encourage exchange of experiences and culture. Creative Commons offers a series of content rights licenses that are built on copyright laws. They spell out how you want your work attributed and shared while still protecting your creative rights. What are the licenses? This sign attributes the work to its owner. How do you want to be known? This sign prevents the user from using the creative work for commercial purposes. This sign indicates that the user can use the work but cannot apply any changes to it. No remixing. This sign gives the permission for modifying and distributing the creative content, but the user must share their work under the same terms as the original. Keep it moving forward. So how do you get a license for your work? Easy. Visit www.creativecommons.qa or creativecommons.org. Go to the licensing section and answer a few simple questions about how you want to share your work. Allow commercial uses of your work. Allow modifications of your work. Select a license. Click Submit and you'll generate a code for your license that you can easily apply to almost any digital work. Now your work can be shared openly and you will have the confidence your rights are respected. You can even search for other works under Creative Commons. It's a worldwide community. Share your ideas for the whole world to discover them. Help unlock the massive potential within the Arab world and share it with everyone. Creative Commons.
You are watching this on the Hungry Gizmo channel. We now return to our normal programming.
Hey, you people, do you ever wonder what Gizmo's advertising budget is? And let me show you. Yep, that's all I got. We're not gonna let that stop us. We're gonna get this video as far across the web as I can with the knowledge I got. Opening up the valve to that pipe to what is Gizmolandia. You see, ton of YouTube channels out there right now, and they're all making money on what I consider stolen Creative Commons videos.
Shut up! You can't steal Creative Commons. That's the whole point, you idiot.
You are watching the Hungry Gizmo channel. Ahora regresamos turn to the Hungry Gizmo channel. Okay, come on, you know what they're doing. They're milking that sweet, sweet YouTube algorithm.
Gizmo, Gizmo. Hungry Gizmo.
Welcome back to the Hungry Gizmo channel.
What the heck, Gizmo? What do you care? You know, you post something Creative Commons, it's what you expect. It's within their legal right.
Yeah. I know. But that's not the point. You don't get it. Okay. These goons, they're going to be posting content a million times over. They might be doing it manually. They might be doing it with bots. Point is, people are going to be seeing these redistributed creative content posts. Are you starting to see this video right here? Creative, let's make it public domain. It's yours. The people's. Take it. So I know some of you are clever. You're gonna cut out every
Welcome to the Hungry Gizmo
out of
channel.
this video. I don't care. Not your bots, not your serial reposter. The only Creative Commons public domain video on the Hungry Gizmo channel. Yeah, come check out the channel. Is this plan gonna work? Might not. Just an idea. But if it does,
Welcome to the Hungry Gizmo channel.
We've got technology help, stop motion animation, survival.
Hi guys, I'm going to show you how I'd like for you to upload YouTube videos for any assignments that we ever do, for which I ask you to upload a YouTube video. So I've already logged into YouTube here. If you don't know how to do that, all you do is go to youtube.com, click the sign in button. You should use your school email address. It should link with YouTube automatically. That way anything you ever do for school is kind of all linked together. You can always add it to your personal accounts at some other time if you'd like to. Okay, so once you've logged on, you're going to click on Upload. Okay, and then it's going to bring you to this window here. Now for all the videos that I ever ask you to post, it's going to be public almost all the time. Unless I specifically ask you to make it private or unlisted, you should always choose public. And then you're just going to click on that little button, and it's going to allow you to upload your video. And I'm just going to choose a sample video from my library here. Let's see, is that in? I think that should work. Okay. And so it's going to start kind of loading your video. And in the meantime, I think it's important for you to, right here is going to be the title of your whatever your video is. So come up with a good creative title that fits the work. Don't just put like documentary or commercial or whatever. Come up with an actual title that fits your work. And so this one is, I'm just going to call this one The Incredible. Anyway, just coming up with something silly for me. Then in the description box, this is a place for you to enter a pretty good, solid description of what it is that your video contains. Try to use complete sentences, and write a couple of sentences there describing what's going on. It doesn't need to be an essay. Just a couple of sentences is fine. So I'm just going to put here, Washman introduces open house for all Okay. So you can go on and you could be a little bit more specific, but for our purpose that's good enough. And the tags, this is where you want to come up with some good keywords that are related to your video, so that way when people go search, your video will come up more often. And I think this is a really great idea because you put all this work in, people should see it. Well, and for mine I accidentally chose a video that is not supported, so I'm going to go ahead and go back there. I'm going to pick one. Oh, that's why it's a .mov instead of, it should be an MP4. Let's see. Is that one an MP4? I think that one is. Let's try that one. There we go. Okay, so here I've already got a title in for it. Description here. Mr. Washman walks his students through the blog making process for Weebly.com. Okay. Again, you could be more specific, but this works just fine for us. Tags, one more time. So like, as I was saying, these are words that are related to your topic so that when people search, they'll find your video. So I could put blogs, I could put Weebly, I could put Capel High School, I could put several things. And so the more tags you put, the better, because it makes it more likely that your video will come up when people search. So those are the three things on this page that I always want you to do. Remember, leave it public, And what you could do over here, if I ever ask you to add it to a particular playlist, which I may do at some point, all you're going to do is click on that add button, type in the name of the playlist I give you, and it'll add it to it automatically. But I would like you now to go to the advanced settings, and there are several other buttons here, but there are a couple that I want you to pay attention to more than all the others. So first of all, license and rights ownership. This is really important for us because I want you guys to get used to using Creative Commons licenses. So I want you to click the drop down box there, and I want you to click on Creative Commons Attribution. Alright? That's going to allow your work to be included in the Creative Commons, which for us is really important because you wouldn't have been able to make your videos if you hadn't had access to the Creative Commons. So we want to make sure that we give people the same attributions that they gave us whenever we borrowed some of their work to make these videos. And so a couple of these other things you could go through and look. These all don't need to be clicked or changed unless you have a specific need. The category is pretty important, so if you feel like your video falls into one of these categories, go ahead and choose it. For me, I'm going to stick with education because that's where this video actually works. And then I think it's important to go ahead and put the date that you're publishing. So you could just easily click on today, and it would put it up there. And that's pretty much it. After you've got all these things put in, you're going to go over here, you're going to click on publish, and that's going to finalize it. So if you guys have any questions about how to post your YouTube videos with the correct Creative Commons licenses, just be sure and email me and let me know. Thanks guys, have a great day.
All right, guys, we are going to show you in this video how to find Creative Commons videos on YouTube. Now, first, what is Creative Commons? Creative Commons lets other creators use their video as long as you link to them back and give them attribution, give them credit for having done that. So, for example, if you're looking for videos to use, like maybe as B-roll or something, then you'll often want to look for Creative Commons videos. So let's say you want to find a picture of or some video of clouds, right? So you can search for clouds, and then what you can do is you want to filter, and you want to filter for Creative Commons. Okay, now you can overlay these and have different filters. You can have long videos that have Creative Commons, or just short videos that have Creative Commons. But basically, once this is checked, this is only going to show you videos that have Creative Commons. And so a lot of them will have this CC logo, okay? So for example, right here, it says license Creative Commons attribution reuse allowed, okay? So, and it says note the video track, the music track does not fall under Creative Commons, okay? So you're basically looking for something like this, and then you can reuse that video and put your own or any clips of this video, and let's, for example, and then use your own attribution. Okay. Typically, you want to find something probably that will be more just one solid, take like this. That's Creative Commons. You can see where it has this license Creative Commons attribution reuse allowed. Okay, so this some of them will even give a direct download to it, so you can actually download the video file and just download it anyhow. But that's basically what you're looking for, right? So you can scan these, and then you want to find ones that are solid, that have a solid continuity to them that you can use. So this one, and typically these are people that would do some time-lapse videos that they put up. So this one, just from the description, looks promising, and you can see that there's just some different time-lapse things that you can do, and then you can slow this up, speed it up, whatever you want to do, and it will have the Creative Commons attribution license allowed. So if there's not a direct download video, you can either edit this on the YouTube editor itself, or what you can do is you can actually download it. So you can go to YouTube video downloader, and you'll see a bunch of these different videos where you can plug in the title of it and paste it in here. All right, so the video, you can get it in 720p, and it's going to download. Okay. So the thing is, you want to attribute the channel name, and if you're using any kind of videos like this, what I would also suggest is you just start a spreadsheet where you have this information saved, right? So you'd kind of have this saved, and you can find the name of it and you know who to attribute it to. So another way of doing that would be, let's show this in the Finder, and this is opening up in the play button. But when you download it, you want to make sure that you have that attribution, because you do have to have that attribution in order for it to be valid. Okay. Right there, CC by 40. CC is Creative Commons, but when you download it, and I think, yeah, so we're just downloading this one here. So what you can do is you can go Show in Finder, and then you can put dash Creative Commons and then the channel name. So you'll know no punctuation marks. That is odd that it's not letting me put that in. Oh, there must be an extra space there. Okay, so. All right, perfect. So now you know who to attribute that to, and basically use that for your own video. So you can load that into your video editor now and change the audio track, remix it, put a filter on it, and then that becomes your content that you can actually create, put on YouTube, and monetize. So you can monetize those videos as long as you have that Creative Commons attribution, and you're giving credit back to this channel. Okay, so I hope that makes sense, and if you have any questions, just hit me up and I'll be happy to answer them. Thanks.
Hey guys, now I'm just going to go over the blueprint/business model and how we're going to actually make money on YouTube. Now this is the blueprint I've personally used to make over $110,000 in the last year with a single channel. I have other channels too that are making money, but this is the one I've been doing the longest, and that's the biggest. So you guys don't think I'm lying, I just actually logged into the analytics so you can see that this really is my YouTube channel. And right around November of last year, I actually started implementing a lot of the tactics that I'm teaching in this course. And as you can see, there's just a huge spike in revenue. And here, as you guys can see, this is my actual YouTube analytics. This is the channel that I own. As you can see, I'm going over. Lately, I've been making around $200 to $300 per day just with this single channel. Now, I just want to show you guys that here is another channel that I just made a few months ago. And here we go. I just logged into the analytics of this channel as well. And you guys can see the numbers. You can do the math. It's possible to make a lot of money with YouTube, and it's completely changed my life. So looking at the actual blueprint here, what we're going to want to do first off is get reviewed by YouTube and accepted into their monetization program. To do this, you need 1,000 subscribers and 4,000 hours of watch time. And this goes for your entire channel. Using the model I'm going to show you, it should only take about 2 weeks, maybe a month, depending on how often you're posting videos and optimizing your videos for getting views, as I'll teach in this course. It'll be different for everyone, but if you do it well, you can definitely get 1,000 subscribers and 4,000 hours of watch time in 2 weeks. I got to these requirements with that second channel that I showed you guys in just about 2 weeks, and in just under a month I was accepted and then making money with that channel. So what we're going to actually be doing is downloading videos that are already made directly from YouTube and then reposting them. You might be asking how we do this. Now we're going to be using a special license known as Creative Commons. Creative Commons is essentially a license that waives copyright, so anyone who posts a video on YouTube and lists it as Creative Commons, you're then allowed to download and repost it. Then, you know, you can put your own title, your own thumbnail, your own tags, and optimize it so you can start getting views and then therefore making money. And that's really the beauty of it, guys, because it's so easy to do and it's completely legal due to that Creative Commons license. Which again waives the copyright, so you don't have to like worry about them copyrighting your video or getting mad at you for like reposting their video. That's actually why they upload these videos as Creative Commons, because they want you to reshare it. And then you can monetize these videos and then make money from them. So then after we find videos that are listed under Creative Commons, we're going to want to download these videos and then schedule them. So in the course, I'm going to show you how to schedule these videos that you downloaded. So you can download like 5 to 10 videos per day and then schedule them throughout the day. And that's what's so great about this. You can download a bunch of videos and then optimize and schedule them so they come out at regular intervals. And it really only takes about 30 minutes a day to download like 5 to 10 videos, and then what you do is schedule them to come out like every hour throughout the day. And let's say you're going on a trip or something and you won't be able to upload videos for a couple days. You could download like 20 videos and schedule them for 2 days. You could do this for a week and work like 1 day at the beginning of the week and just not work for the rest of the week and still make a ton of money. And when you're posting 5 to 10 videos per day, you can imagine how quickly the views and watch time racks up, so it won't take long at all to get to that 1,000 subscribers and 4,000 hours of watch time that YouTube requires. And once you get there, you just click review within your YouTube settings, and then someone from YouTube will look at your channel and just make sure that there's no violence or like sexual content or anything like that. And as long as there's not, you'll be making money on YouTube very quickly. And once you're approved, you can then put advertisements on your video and then make money. And you can put ads literally anywhere in your video. So I like to put an ad like every minute or 2 minutes, and that's something that not many people do. And it makes sense if you're like trying to build a personal channel, you're trying to build up a brand. You don't want people to get annoyed by advertisements and stop watching. But for these types of videos where we're trying to make money, it's not that big of a deal. Because you're not building your own brand or anything, and a lot of the ads will just be those like little box ads, so you won't be interrupted by some unskippable ad every minute. So again, the secret to making a lot of money with YouTube is to put multiple ads on your videos. And a lot of the ads will just be those little pop-up ads, so it's not like the video will just be interrupted every like minute or so. As you can see, it'll just be one of those tiny little advertisements like this that just pop up on the bottom. And people don't actually have to click the ads to get you money. If they just see the advertisement, you can make money off of them just viewing it. You do obviously make more money if they end up clicking it, but if they just see it, you still make money as well. So that's the blueprint on how to make money with YouTube without making videos. And the best part is that you don't have to spend any money for ads on Facebook. You don't have to pay for anything. This is totally free to get started, and it's just pure profit. And I guarantee you've watched videos from people who are doing the same thing, and you probably haven't even noticed this happening. So throughout this course, I'll show some examples of people who are making a lot of money doing this, and how you can too.
Когда бежала я вперед, ты губы так надул немножко, мне показалось, лопнешь вот-вот. Из головы до ног окинув взглядом, вдруг покачал своей головой. Мне показалось, что надо тебе, в тебе
Look down the way. Rabbits. There's rabbits. Guys, we're chasing rabbits. I have no idea. It's a rodent for sure. You see it? Look down the way. She's what do you rabbits. What do you mean? There's a bush. The entire. Oh, there it is. I see it. It's eating right now. We're approaching. Look at him. Whoa, whoa, whoa! Oh no! It's on the other side of the fence. Oh, there's a hole in the fence, guys. Dude. Oh God! It's gone. What the heck was that? Guys, in the comments below, let me know. I mean, today we're gonna be doing some crazy stuff, probably moving our fish Megamind and Ninja to the house. But what kind of animal was that?
I'm like in shock. I thought it was a bunny.
I thought it was a rabbit, and Lily was about to get her rabbit after all this time. She was excited. Guys, continuing on. Look down the way. Rabbits. There's rabbits. Guys, we're chasing rabbits today. Rabbit hunting. Come on. There's so many rabbits. Come. What? What happened? What do you mean? What you mean no trespassing? Private property. Look, there's a gate right here. We just walked through. You see that? No problem. Come. Lily, come! All right. You want this rabbit as a pet?
I want this rabbit.
All right. We have to go ahead and be a strike team, like legit sniper squad, but we're not going to kill the rabbit. We're going to keep the rabbit as a pet. It might be happy in the wild, but Lily wants a rabbit. You ready? You have to go around that way. If you run around that way, on that side, you can spook it and I can try to chase it.
Okay.
You're the faster one in this relationship.
Okay.
But only in some things. I like to take my time. Okay, go. Go, 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 go. Run.
This way?
Lily, run around. The rabbit's right there. Go. Run as fast as you can now. Go. Here's the rabbit, guys. Here she comes. Keep running. It's running that way, Lily. Lily's right here. There's so many of them. Easy, stay there, stay there, stay there, stay there. Stay there. Oh my God, it's so cute, Lily. They're right here. It's okay, buddy. It's okay. It's okay. It's okay. Easy. No! Lily. It's over here. No, no, to the left, Lily. Lily, to the left. Run. Run at this bush. Run. Run here, to the bush.
There's so many mice.
He's right in front of you. Go. Go at him. Get him to come out this way. Hello? Lily, what are you doing? They're right there. They're right here.
There's one back here.
No. Oh, it's right behind you. What happened? What happened?
There was a giant reptile.
What do you mean? A reptile? Lily, did you forget the mission?
I guess so. I saw a giant.
It's a lizard. Do you want this rabbit or not?
I want it from the pet store.
Oh. We're not buying you a rabbit. You have to catch a rabbit if we're to keep it.
Fine.
I'm gonna go on that side. Stay here, okay? Just in case the rabbit comes. You're fine, you're fine. All right, Slayers, we're having some fun. And we're checking out this place down in Homestead. Come on. Here, rabbits. We're rabbit hunting. Oh, there's a little one over there. What's in the middle?
That reptile.
There's a reptile here? What reptile?
You don't see it?
No.
It's like a black and blue lizard.
Where?
It's spooky.
Where? Lily, I don't see it at all.
You probably spooked it.
I didn't spook it.
When I sprinted from it.
That's the bunny. It's your bunny. Well, there's a whole bunch of bees flying here. It's okay, but the bunny's in here. We gotta get the bunny. Lily, we gotta get the bunny. Well, I'm gonna try to come in here. This is the bunny's home. Oh, but this is the bunny's home. It's over here? Where? Where'd he go? Bunny, no! No, Bunny, don't do it! Well, we tried our best. The bunny's gone. Dang it! We almost got the bunny. More rabbits. He's so cute. It's a little one. Are you ready, Lily? You need to run with everything you have to catch this rabbit. Are you ready? Come on. It's such a small little baby bunny. No, it's gone. You took too long. I'm telling you, you're taking too long. Lily, I found the rabbit. Over here. Come here. At least look at it. Come on. Come over here now. Quickly run. What happened? You okay? Don't run too much. You might spook the rabbit. No! Look at him. We're rabbit watching. No! No, rabbit, come back this way. I want you as a pet. Hello? I found him. He's over there. Come back. Can you be my pet, Mr. Rabbit? No! Well, what a cool little place, huh? Right? It's pretty interesting that we went rabbit hunting. No luck, though. So,
We tried.
what do you say if we go ahead and buy you a rabbit?
What?
Want to buy a rabbit?
I want to buy a rabbit.
Alright, guys, looks like even though we didn't successfully hunt these rabbits, we're buying her a rabbit.
I really need a rabbit.
Yeah.
It's past April, so it can't be April Fools.
No, we're buying you a rabbit. You wouldn't believe it.
All of them over there?
All of them over there. This is where we
See,
run.
bunnies.
Exactly. Guys, look. It's 1 billion bunnies. There's so many. Lily, you have one chance. Can you catch one? You might have to dive and slide.
Okay.
It'd be pretty wild, but they're really fast. So this is like a little unusual compared to our usual videos. But we're not hunting them or anything. She wants one as a pet, and these guys are in the wild. Look at this. What? I can't hear you. A little louder?
Footsteps. You gotta be quiet.
Oh, okay. Okay. Shh, shh, shh. You're yelling. They feel the vibration. Lily, are you gonna take off and try to catch one of these bunnies?
I won't be successful.
Don't. You have to be quick. They're really fast. There's so many. Look at them. An entire row of bunnies, guys. You gotta get the rabbits. I'm gonna be right behind you. Look slower. Look. We have a couple over here. Quiet. They're grazing. They're not really paying attention to you. There's so many bunnies right here, guys. Look, Lily, stop. It's the cabbie. It is gone. It's the cabbie for real. What the heck? What's over where? Where? It's part of the tree. Lily, you gotta pay attention. Look, the cabbie's in there still. But we have these other bunnies right here. They're on high alert. Don't you tell your friends that we're here. There's so many bunnies. Lily, you want your pet? Here it is. Here's your bunny. We don't have to buy a bunny. Come on. Ho, 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 ho. It's really, you have to go faster than that. You gotta take off. You gotta take off. They're taking off. They're spooking everything. Go, Lily, go. Go, Lily, go, go. Get your bunny. Get your bunny. Get your bunny. Get your bunny. He's right there. He's right there. He's right there. He's right there. Get the rodent. Get the rodent. There's more bunnies. Run. Run. Come on. There's more bunnies. Come on to the bunnies. Come on. Get the bunnies. Oh, this thing's taking off. Wait. There's something over here. No, 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 no. Dang it. Oh, that was kind of crazy. Are you okay?
Fine, I just don't have a bunny.
Well, guys, when I said we're going to get her a bunny, we're talking about it. If this video gets 10,000 likes, 10,000 likes, I know you guys can do it. 10,000 likes, we'll buy Lily a bunny.
10,000!
10,000 likes.
Let's do it!
She loves bunnies, so
I do.
10,000 likes, and Lily gets her bunny.
I can only pray.
Slayers, I hope you enjoyed this episode. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And again, 10,000 likes, and Lily gets her bunny. And I'll see you in the next Slay Avenger. Booyah.
Imagine receiving a regular monthly payment straight into your bank account from YouTube. And imagine if you can enjoy those monthly paydays spending just about 30 minutes a week doing something which is great fun. Now, too good to be true? Well, I would agree with you until it happened to me. You see, I actually do receive an average of $10,000 a month paid directly into my bank account as regular as clockwork by YouTube. And here's the best bit. I don't have to mess around shooting videos. Instead, YouTube allows me to plunder their massive stocks of certain types of video and use any of the footage I like to make new videos. And that's child's play to do because YouTube has an amazing video editor right there on their site, complete with free music for your new video. Now, I said this was great fun. Now, it makes sense really because the more videos YouTube have, the more advertising they can show, so the more money they make. And that's how you get paid. Because the videos carry paid advertising from which you receive a nice slice of what the advertisers have to pay, straight into your bank account every month like clockwork. And with the videos and the video editor both being free, that lovely commission is all yours to keep. And if you're thinking I'm some sort of Superman and you wouldn't be able to copy my success, check out the testimonials from hundreds of our members just like you who had zero experience and no technical knowledge but is now making thousands of dollars each month with YouTube. Now, I've been very careful to pace this program so it's perfect for beginners as well as more experienced folks. So whether you're a total YouTube rookie and want to zoom straight to YouTube Gold from the get-go, or maybe you're an experienced operator wanting to take your results to the next level, then you can quickly discover for yourself how much profitable fun this is. So what are you waiting for? Start your trial today and have instant access to all of my secret step-by-step video tutorials to guarantee your success. You'll also have unlimited private one-on-one consultations with me. Yep, that's right. I will personally hold you by the hand and make sure you make money with my system. Now, because I teach and mentor everyone that joins, spots are limited. So don't wait. Join now and start making massive cash with YouTube today.
Okay, welcome to the third in our series of copyright webinars. This is Creative Commons in the public domain. My name is Jennifer Kelly. I am the faculty copyright liaison in the library, and I'm also the faculty professional development coordinator. I think Creative Commons in public domain is probably the most fun of the series, because it involves a lot of free resources and kind of cool things to play around with. Feel free to ask questions as I am going through the presentation today. If you type something into the chat box, it'll pop up and I'll get a little notification and I'll respond to that as soon as I can. If you could just go ahead and at the bottom of your screen, there is, let me go back to my pointer here. You won't be able to see it too far, but if you imagine the pointer is upside down, pointing down to the bottom, there should be a little stick figure of a person raising their hand. So if you can hear me clearly and I'm speaking at a reasonable, yep, there you go, speaking at a reasonable pace, if you could just raise your hand or give me a smiley face or something like that, just so I know that I'm audible to y'all. And if, let's see, great. So I'm going to type into the chat just to make sure that if there's somebody who can't hear me, they know that I'm asking this question. Another thing you can do with Collaborate Ultra is at the bottom left, a couple over from the little stick figure raising their hand, they're not really a stick, there should be a little picture for your profile. And that's your status and settings. If you hover over that, it'll tell you that. Here you can indicate that you're away, so if you need to step away from your computer. You can give feedback, happy, surprised, sad, confused. Hope nobody is sad during the course of this presentation. You can also tell me to go faster or to slow down. You can agree or disagree. Lots of different options for you. So hopefully you'll feel free to play around with those. Raise your hand, give me some feedback, whatever works best. Okay, I'm going to lower people's hands. There we go. Let's get started talking about Creative Commons and the public domain. I want to begin with a quick question for you guys. And again, you can use the chat box or you can use the whiteboard tools. I believe you should be able to write on the screen. Yep, you can. Tell me what you know about the Creative Commons and what you know about public domain. Whatever words come to mind, thoughts, phrases, even questions that you might have, your reasons for being here. Just go ahead and share those. I'll give you guys a couple of minutes to do that. Okay, we've got that Creative Commons is stuff that you can use anywhere, anytime, but you have to attribute. Anybody else? It's okay to share questions too. Basically nothing, that's fine. Public domain is old stuff and no longer has copyright. Open resources and research tools, okay. Great, this is a good place to start. We'll be going through both of these one at a time, public domain and then Creative Commons. Let's start with a primer on the public domain. And a little bit of going back, for those of you who have attended all of these workshops, some of this will be familiar. A little bit of background for copyright in general. According to the Constitution, Congress has the right to promote the progress of science and useful arts by securing for a limited time to authors and inventors the exclusive right to their respective writings and discoveries. So copyright covers the useful arts part of things, or most of them. So as we know, copyright protects creative works, and the bar for creativity is pretty low. Original works, again, creative original works in a fixed format. All right, so public domain is the commons, the shared collective works of all of these useful arts and sciences, these works that have expired, that have their term is up. So the idea is that we're giving time for authors and inventors to have exclusive rights. They are the only ones who say, I take a photograph. As the copyright owner, I have limited time and to have exclusive rights such as selling it, sharing it, displaying it publicly, making derivative works, performing it. Those are the things that only I, as the copyright owner, am allowed to do with these things. Back in the day, way back when when copyright was first legislated, the term was only 14 years. So I created something, a piece of music, a piece of art, wrote a novel, wrote history. I'd have 14 years of exclusive rights to sell that, to do whatever I like with it, make derivative copies, perform my play, and make money off of it. After those 14 years, it would enter the commons, where it would be owned by the public, and the public could do whatever they want with it. Examples of things that are in the commons right now would be plays of Shakespeare. Right? You could probably think of a lot of others, but chances are if a public school performs it, it's in the public domain. And public schools perform these things because it's free for them to do so. They are not held by copyright restrictions. In 1978, the Copyright Term Extension Act retroactively extended the duration of copyright to the life of the author plus 70 years. So going all the way back to 1923, everything from 1923 through 1978, oh, welcome back, Melissa, or through the present, none of these things join the commons or enter the public domain for 70 years plus the life of the author. So it's a very, very long time. And studies show that it does not have a positive economic impact, and it actually has a negative impact on the cultural commons. And I think one of the most surprising things that I learned in doing my research is that, so it's not just that we can't, adapt somebody's work and do what we want with it, but it's also preventing us from doing things like preserving works. So a derivative, for example, would be taking a film and putting it on a stable piece of media. So there are reels of film out there in the world that are literally crumbling to pieces, falling apart, books as well, and we can't do anything about that because they're protected by copyright, and to put them on another format would be cost prohibitive. It's problematic, but that's the way that it is. The Copyright Act of 1978 has made that change. So the public domain currently is limited to works published from 1923 or before, with some other exceptions. Let's take a look. And I gave you the answer to this, but let's see if you were paying attention. So which works are not in the public domain here? And I'm going to, let me give you guys a poll here just so we can play with polling. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 choices. Start the poll. Okay, you have the option to pick. Let's line up number 1 with A. Someday I'll remember to do this. So go ahead and use that poll to click on what you think the answer is. Oops. All right, can everybody see the poll? I just want to make sure. Can't see the list. Let me see. Let me see what happened here. End polling. Poll is on top. Oh, you can't see the list. I see. Gotcha. Let me move that. Oh, it won't let me move it. Well, that's a nuisance. Try making your screen bigger. Oh, no, here we go. That's the problem, is making the screen bigger. Let me try this one more time. Yeah, let's give that another whirl. No? Well, that's never going to help. Okay, we'll get rid of the poll. We're going to end the poll. And I'll just let you use the chat box. Or you put a little check mark on the screen. That's bad planning on my part. There we go. So let me know, without the poll, which you think is not in the public domain. Oh, looks like we almost had a consensus there. I've got someone with D. Is that everybody? I think that's everybody. Okay. The answer is C. So works published after 1922, before 1964, are not in the public domain. But the good news is that starting next year, these works will finally enter the public domain for the first time since 1977. New works are actually entering the public domain. So it's all very confusing. Let me show you something that I use frequently to figure this stuff out. Let's go to the next slide. Here we go. Oh, too fast. Here we go. So this is the digital copyright slider And you can imagine what this would look like if it were a physical thing, you know, one of those little slidey deals that, you know, can line up the little arrow and it will give you answers. It's great fun to play with online. I'm going to share the URL. But this is linked off of the library's copyright page as well. So you can see all the different conditions, and pretty much everything that is underneath before 1923, almost all of these say maybe. So there's a lot of conditions to think about. So public domain can be complicated by things like term extensions, individual versus joint authors, corporate authorship. So tools like this can be really helpful guides. But you can sort of rest assured that something published before 1923 is in the public domain. And there's all kinds of like odd stories. Like for the longest time, It's a Wonderful Life, that movie, was in the public domain. And technically the movie itself still is, because they failed to renew their copyright. So as you can see, one of those little options in here, let me grab my pointer here, is, okay, published with a copyright notice but not renewed after 28 years. So the copyright notice for It's a Wonderful Life had not been renewed. So it expired out of copyright. It was the subject of a lawsuit, of course, because nobody wants a movie to actually expire out of copyright before its time. But this is sort of why the movie became so popular, because people were able to play it on TV and in theaters endlessly without having to pay for it. The lawsuit ended up determining that while the movie itself was out of copyright and in the public domain, this was complicated by the soundtrack, which was still protected by copyright, and the book that the movie is based on was still protected by copyright, so there was a conflict there. And the result was the ability for, I'm going to forget which network it plays this every Christmas, but they are allowed to play it once a year without any kind of licensing issues. So that's the consensus. NBC, I was going to guess NBC, yeah. So that's the story of confusing public domain things and It's a Wonderful Life. See, now you know, you can tell a story about public domain. There are 3 categories of works that are in the public domain. I'm going to talk about each of those briefly. The first is works that automatically enter the public domain upon creation because they're not copyright protected. So that includes things like titles, names, short phrases and slogans, symbols and numbers. Ideas and facts are not protected by copyright. Processes and systems, like the process for distillation, cannot be protected by copyright. So that's in the public domain. Government works and documents. So the image here is a WPA poster. That is in the public domain because it was created by the United States government. There are, of course, exceptions to all of these things. So for example, if the United States government contracts work with someone, that work might be protected and not in the public domain. But for the most part, these are things that are not protected by copyright, and so they're in the public domain. We're going to talk about other exceptions in a moment when we get into issues with trademark and other intellectual property protections, but these works are not protected by copyright in the public domain. The second type is works that have been assigned to the public domain by their creators. This is the idea of creating something and giving up all rights to it, dedicating the work to the public domain. And if anybody has examples that they would like to share of encountering works like this or guesses on do this, feel free to share that in the chat box. I'll just keep talking in the meantime. If you are familiar with the website Pixabay, all of the images on that website have been assigned to the public domain. So you can use them as if they were expired and published before 1923. You don't have to attribute them. You don't have to pay for a license. You can do whatever you want with them. You can put them on something and sell it. Let me type that in for you. It is Pixabay. Yep, there you go, Pixabay. So very handy. You don't have to worry about those things at all. Yes, Morguefile is also great. I have some resources I'll be sharing with you guys as well. But yeah, there's lots of great resources out there. The third category of work in the public domain is those that have expired into. So that's I think what people are most familiar with is works that are no longer protected by copyright because their term has expired. So quick clarification about copyright versus trademark. We're not talking about trademark here, but there can sometimes be a little bit of confusion. So works that are not protected by copyright could still be protected by trademark, by patent, or by trade secret. A couple examples. So recipes are not protected by copyright, but the recipe for Coca-Cola is a trade secret. The phrase, "let's get ready to rumble," is not protected by copyright, but it is a registered trademark. Systems, methods, and processes are not protected by copyright, but frequently there are patents in place for such things. So just because it's not protected by copyright doesn't mean you can do whatever you want with it. Okay, and this usually falls into that area of let me just go back one, that first category of work. So this one here, which would be the things that are not protected by copyright. And those might be ones you need to consider a little bit before you go ahead and do something with it. Like you somehow stumble across the recipe for Coca-Cola. You can't publish that. You will be sued. So things to think about. So expired works in the public domain. Like I said, the most well-known examples of public domain works. So everything published in the US before 1923. Works published with a copyright notice from 1923 through 63 without a copyright renewal. So that was the issue with It's a Wonderful Life. All works published without a copyright notice from 1923 through 1977. And then finally, all works published without a copyright notice from 1978 through March 1st, 1989, and without subsequent registration within 5 years. Super confusing, right? The one thing I want to point out here is this information about something being published without a copyright notice. In 1989, the law changed, or 1988, I think, the law changed so that works published without a copyright notice, i.e. they were not registered with the Copyright Office, these works were still protected by copyright, even without the notice. So keep that in mind. If it doesn't have a little copyright icon on it, which you are all familiar with, I probably don't even need to draw it badly, things that are published without that notice are still protected by copyright if it was published after March 1st, 1989. Make sense? Questions? And this is why we have the digital copyright slider to clarify all these little exceptions, right? Published under this condition between these strange dates. Final little question about public domain. I'm not going to try the poll again, since that seems to be working less than ideally. So I'll just have you type your answer into the chat box or make a little mark on the screen. What can you do with public domain works? All right, we've got C and D. So C is correct, but so is B and A. So it is all of the above. There are no restrictions to what you can do with a public domain work. And I think the one that people tend to get hung up on is that idea of republishing something commercially. But think of Dover thrift editions, if you're familiar with those books. They tend to be classic literature republished very inexpensively. And they are inexpensive because they don't have to pay anybody for the text. You're just basically paying for the paper and whatever artwork is slapped on top of it and the cost of production. If, for example, you took a work that's in the public domain, like Dracula, and added some original content to it, images, you drew your own personal illustrated Dracula, or you added some annotations along the side, or you translated it to another language, you would then own the copyright to those additional things, right? So someone couldn't take your translation of Dracula or your artwork that you published along with Dracula and then republish it itself. Does that make sense? So people can do whatever they want with the original text, but as soon as you add something new into that, that new stuff is protected by copyright. And this becomes relevant when we talk about the Creative Commons, which we'll get to in just a moment. Just some quick resources. And I just want to stress that on the library's copyright page, let me get you the URL for that. Copyright. On the page where I am sharing the presentation slides for these webinars, I have created a quick little guide that you can download that has links to these resources for public domain and some resources that we'll talk about in a moment that cover Creative Commons as well. So all of these contain public domain works. The Internet Archive, if you have not ever visited it, is amazing. These are the same people who do the Wayback Machine that allows you to look at archived websites. But they have all these great, film reels from, like public schools, how, Johnny has lice and duck and cover under your desk to hide from the Germans, not the Germans, I'm sorry, the Russians, might be Germans too. I'm not sure how far back they go. But all this great stuff, old music, old books. Project Gutenberg is really similar, also has all these old books that have been digitized in different formats. So you can download them to your Kindle, you can download it as a PDF. And again, if you are an artist or a translator, you can take all of these books and add whatever you want to them. You can repackage them, you can sell them. It's all freely available. It's pretty cool. LibriVox generally takes those books and makes audio versions of them. So if you would rather someone read Dracula to you, you can do that, and those are made available. And then you can even remix those and do something fun with it if you wanted. So endless joy with public domain works. If you're interested in the topic in general, the Public Domain Review is a phenomenal open journal that's freely available. That's it, yep. And the link is on that resource guide that is on the webinar page. Okay, any questions about public domain before we move on to the Creative Commons? Okay, if anything occurs to you, feel free to type it in. Raise your hand. Creative Commons. Creative Commons is not a replacement for copyright. Creative Commons is permission given in advance. So when we talk about copyright, and we have in the other webinars, generally, although the authors of works have exclusive rights, frequently, especially for educational purposes, you can contact the copyright owner and say, hi, can I use this work for this purpose? And the author can say yes, or they can say no, or they can say yes, but give you some conditions. And it would involve, some back and forth, having conversation, signing something usually. Maybe there's an exchange of money. Creative Commons does all of that up front. So instead of having to call, say, a photographer whose work is available on Flickr.com and say, can I use your image in a presentation that I'm giving at a college to an open audience? Instead of having to reach out to that person, wait to hear back from them, get all the details negotiated, Creative Commons puts all that information up front. So I can go to Flickr and see that a photographer has licensed their image for non-commercial uses. And I can know that I can do whatever I want with this image as long as it's not a commercial purpose. So think of the Creative Commons license as a layer on top of existing copyrights. Any questions about that? So it's useful for on two sides. First, it allows the public to share their work. So I can create something and make it available. Yes, you can use my content that I put on my research guide freely. Allow other librarians, for example, to take what I've written as long as they say where it came from. I can put that on my website and people can do whatever they want with it. That's great. But it also allows me to go looking for resources that I can use and remix as long as I adhere to those licenses. So that's what the Creative Commons does. There are all these licenses. Oh, question. If I get permission, it's okay so long as I don't make money with it. Again, it depends, Pat. So if you are getting permission from the copyright owner through a conversation, then they're going to tell you what you can and can't do with it. With Creative Commons licenses, it's going to depend on the license, right? So I'm going to talk a little bit about those. There are 6 different licenses that are combinations of these 4 types. So attribution, share alike, non-commercial, and no derivatives are the 4 pieces that you'll see, and they can be combined. So for example, they all have to include attribution. That's the basic. You have to say who created this. And I can see Pat's confused, but hopefully this conversation will clarify some things for you. So they all have to have attribution, but you can add these other pieces to it. So I create let's see, I'm going to make a terrible little drawing over here. There we go. I create a terrible drawing. A tree and a house. This terrible little drawing right now, as we speak, is protected by copyright. If you wanted to use this terrible little drawing, you would have to ask me. And I would say, of course, it's a terrible little drawing, go for it. But if I have a license on it, and that license is this one here, CC BY, you can do whatever you want with that little drawing as long as you say, this was created by Jennifer Kelly and made available through the CC BY license. Okay? If I use this other license, CC BY SA, share alike, that is attribution, you must say where it came from, and also whatever you do with it, you have to put this license on it. So you take my terrible little drawing, you put it on a mug, you make that available, you make money, you create a calendar of terrible little drawings, sell that, do whatever you want with it. Your calendar, if it's all full of drawings created by me with this license on it, your calendar also has to have that license on it. So people need to be able to take what you've done and add and attribute them and and share it alike. Okay, the next is non-commercial. So we're still sticking with just attribution plus. Okay, so we're not looking at, I got rid of everything there. We're not looking at share alike anymore, just attribution and non-commercial. So my terrible little drawing just got worse. Tree, house. You can do whatever you want with this as long as you're not making money off of it. That's attribution non-commercial, or CC BY NC. Our next option is BY NC SA. So you can see these are getting more restrictive as I go down. The different types of licenses I'm adding or making changes to make the license a little bit more restrictive. So you have to attribute where you got it from. You cannot charge money for it, and you have to have this share alike license on it. More restrictive is no derivatives. So my terrible little drawing, you can't remix it, you can't change it. It has to be as is. A better example would be music. I create some music, you can't remix it. You can't do anything else with it. You can play it, you can put it on a CD and sell it under this license, but you can't make any derivatives. Okay. The most restrictive license is CC BY NC ND. So that is attribution, here we go, attribution, non-commercial, no derivatives. All you can do is share it and not make money. Does that make sense? So you can see on the left-hand side of the chart here, the things that you're allowed to do: share, remix, commercial, share and remix, not commercial, and here these last two are only share. And the least open, of course, is copyright. Clear? Questions? No questions? Excellent. Little bits of information about these types of things. Wikipedia uses, let me see, the attribution share alike license in all of their content. What else can I say about these? Oh, do you need a lawyer to understand this better? It can be confusing. What I like about Creative Commons, though, is that one of the things that they ask is to provide these links. So you can see this link down here. And so when you license something, there should be a link that takes you to the license. And there's a human readable license that tells you exactly what you can and can't do. So you're not required to memorize what these images look like and what they mean. You can always click and say, okay, this says CC BY ND. I don't remember what ND stands for. You can click through and it will tell you exactly. Let me give you an example of this just for quick. Oops. Commons, CC BY 4.0. Oops. Okay, so I'm going to share a link right here. Feel free to click through for the human readable license for an attribution share alike. So, and it tells you right there, you are free to share, copy and redistribute the material in any medium or format, and adapt, remix, transform, and build upon the material for any purpose, even commercially. So it does a good job of explaining that and make it a little bit easier for you. So hopefully no lawyers need be involved. So a quick little refresher to see how much this is sunk in, if at all. which of these licenses gives you the most freedom? So you have found a book available online that is licensed with one of these. What can you do the most with? We've got 2 B's. Anybody else? Another B. We have some other thoughts. Everybody kind of agreeing with B. Some people not willing to commit. Okay, we got B. B, yep. B gives you the most freedom. Absolutely. For extra credit, who wants to say which one's the least open? D, D, D. Yep. Yep, that one's attribution, non-commercial, no derivatives. That is the most limiting of the licensees. Perfect, you guys are experts. So finding Creative Commons licensed work. Creative Commons has a website that will allow you to search. I use this all the time. It's bookmarked on my browser. All I need to do is just type in into my browser window CC and it comes up right away. I love this search. I put in what I'm looking for, a noun, a concept, whatever it is, and usually Flickr. I like searching Flickr for images, but it allows you to search all these other things. So you can also, and I want to stress this because people love using Google Images, the way that you can find Creative Commons licensed materials in Google Images is Google Images, you have to click the Tools menu and then Usage Rights, and then it will give you options to find works that are available for any use, for non-commercial use, for other restricted uses. So that's how you do that in Google Images. Otherwise, you can use CC Search, and it will allow you can select from all these different tools. You can search Google Images, you can search Pixabay, you can search Wikimedia Commons, SoundCloud, CC Mixter, and Jamendo, or Jamendo. These 3 are music. And you can also search, and I've never done this before until I was preparing for this presentation, just search Google for Creative Commons licensed materials, and what you end up finding is works that are available Creative Commons outside of images. So you find, books and articles and all these other great things. So it's pretty cool. It also gives you the option to search YouTube for Creative Commons licensed work, for there's an open clip art library that you can search. So all this good stuff. I can't speak highly enough of the Creative Commons search. But of course, you always do need to double check. Creative Commons search just makes connections to all these different organizations, Pixabay, Wikimedia Commons, so they're not actually reading the licenses. So once you find the image that you want, double check it, make sure it matches up with the use that you have in mind. Okay. Best practices with Creative Commons. I get a lot of questions about how to cite specifically images or how to attribute images when you're doing usually a PowerPoint presentation, but a poster or something like that. The best practices is using a tassel attribution, which provides the title, the author, the source, and the license. So underneath that is an example of what that would look like, and it does have links. So this is best practices for web-based things, right? Undercover Vampire Policeman, it's a song by Chris Zabriskie, so that's the author, is available under Creative Commons Attribution 4.0 license. So we have the link to the license to clear up that problem of this is confusing, I don't know what this means. So it's really easy for someone to just click through and say, oh, I can do whatever I want with Undercover Vampire Policeman as long as I attribute Chris Zabriskie. I have the link to the author because it's sort of best practices, right? This is very similar to citing a source. You want to not only give credit to the author, but you also want to allow people to follow up, maybe discover more works by this person. And the same with the title. So the link will take you to the original source. You now know what it is, how to find it, all that stuff. Check your licenses before you use them. Always, always, always. Make sure that it actually is licensed for the use that you have in mind. Everything on Google Images, regardless of whether you've selected available for reuse, adaptable, whatever it is, the image is always going to say underneath it, this might be protected by copyright or something along those lines. So you need to go a little bit deeper and click through. Do not just copy and download images from Google Images. Click through to the original source and find the images there. Google actually just recently took away the option to view and download images directly from their image search. So it actually, when you click on the image, it will bring you to the page automatically because it's best practices to go to the source, so you're making sure that you're attributing your sources correctly. And keep track of your uses. This is maybe going a little above and beyond, but I do this with all of the images that I download, especially, and use in presentations, icons that I use on my research guides. One, so that I don't end up downloading the same thing multiple times over and over again. I can go back and find it easily because I have the link to the source, but also because Creative Commons license are non-revocable. Irrevocable, there's the word. So if I license something underneath a CC BY license, attribution only, I can't later go change that. Technically I can do whatever I want, but I can't change that retroactively. So if you have downloaded my image under an attribution license and I change it to straight up copyright, I can't sue you for copyright infringement because you downloaded it under this license. If you have proof, for example, something like a license tracker or just like the date that you downloaded it, then you should be able to prove, on the off chance that you do get sued, or get a takedown notice, more likely, you can prove that you downloaded it underneath this specific license. So I go a little bit above and beyond with this. There's a link at the bottom of the screen which you'll have access to when I post the PowerPoints to the website. Takes you to New Media Rights, which I think has really good examples of how to attribute Creative Commons works. Creative Commons itself also has some best practices there too. Questions about that? Excellent. We are wrapping up here. These are just some of the organizations that use or display or share Creative Commons works. You might recognize some and some not others. Like I had to look up a couple of them, mostly the music ones I'm not familiar with, but MIT OpenCourseware, PLOS, Vimeo, you can find Creative Commons license things in all of these. Putting a date on your attribution. You can. It's not necessary if you're citing it. So I want to make a distinction between citing something and attributing it. Right? So in the world of academia, we're citing our sources. You would want to cite something even if it's public domain, right? So I'm taking a quote from Shakespeare. It's in the public domain. I can do whatever I want with it legally, but in the academic world, I still need to cite it, in which case I do need that year and all that other stuff. You can put any kind of information you want in your attribution, but knowing that the date isn't necessarily required. But if it helps you, absolutely. Oops, put the date in there. Good question. So thank you. This was Creative Commons and public domain. We have one more webinar coming up on April 5th. It's going to be Copyright Basics for Online Teaching. It will have a little bit of fun stuff like this, finding images and other content you can use freely in online classes. Might have a little bit more legal stuff in it, a little bit of the TEACH Act, a little bit of fair use. So it'll sort of synthesize, I think, some of the things that we've talked about in the other webinars as well. You're welcome, Sandra. It's my pleasure. By the end of the week, I will have the slides up and available on the library's website. Let me share that link with you again. And you can see on that page that the presentation slides, webinar recordings are available for copyright and course design and for fair use. The resources that I mentioned for finding Creative Commons and public domain resources are also available already on this page. And you can always feel free to contact me with any questions. I'm happy to answer and point you in the right directions. Thank you so much, Karen. All right, everyone have a great day, and thank you for attending. Thank you for your really good questions, and I appreciate your interest.
Okay, so let's share the doobly-doo. Okay, so thanks very much for joining. And thanks very much to Jose for inviting me to do this, giving me the idea to put it together, giving me kind of an impetus to put all these ideas in a form that's more digestible and more to the point. Thanks, Adam, for setting up the systems for it, and OTJ generally. So I think OTJ really represents the kind of mutual aid and common culture that I want to encourage with this presentation. So it's a good platform for a topic that kind of combines a lot of my interests. So a bit about me. I am the younger teacher that Jennifer referred to, of having less experience when starting out and seeing the lack of resources available for people who are trying to just teach things on limited time budget. I joined Toyo University, and we started to make a brand new curriculum. And I found out that you can basically get one absolute garbage textbook on the topic, and there's not much else out there. And I thought, I'm making a curriculum on English as a second language for IT students. 1/3 of the human race is learning English. Surely resources must exist, right? So that started me onto this track of, hey, how can we share resources? How we can share with each other, right? Now, I am a phonetician now, so I studied the sounds of language and how people pronounce things and phonology. But as an undergrad, I did history pre-law, and at the risk of outing myself as an awful bougie bonbon, I'm from a long line of patent lawyers. So in this presentation, I am going to betray my ancestors and encourage you to share your work very freely. However, let me stress, I'm not a lawyer, nor do I play one on TV. This is not legal advice, and I am not qualified to give you legal advice. This is one teacher telling you what he does and what I think you probably ought to do as well. So, being upfront, this presentation is pure propaganda. I want to convince you of two things. First, some things can and should be free. Free as in free speech, and free as in free beer. And second, I want to convince you that you can and should share your teaching materials for free. So I'll go over what this open culture concept is all about, how Creative Commons licensing works, and why teachers should care about it. First, let's look at the concept of a commons, where Creative Commons gets its name. So up through the 1500s, most of the land on the planet was open field agriculture. Well, not true. Most of the land on the planet was forest, but the cultivated land was open field agriculture. So peasants worked the land and managed forests and used waste land through quite complex communal controls. Fields for grazing sheep, forests for gathering thatch and firewood, public spaces for gathering. All of these places were the commons. They were held in common. Up through the end of the Bakufu in Japan, most villages had areas of forests or mountains that were managed in common by the villagers themselves. It was highly stable, highly sustainable, obviously, or we wouldn't be here. But that doesn't mean there weren't any rules behind who could use it. Common use doesn't mean completely open use. Successful common pool resources, also called CPRs, are highly managed. There's rules for who can access the resource and when. There are rules for who's involved in the decision-making process. There are rules requiring people who draw on the resource pool to contribute to its maintenance. So the commons has never meant lawlessness. It's quite the opposite, actually. Commons is anarchist in the real sense of the word, lacking in a hierarchical authority structure. So rather, they're managed horizontally by equals who care about the resources the most, the people who use them. Now, delving a little deeper into this, contrary to the 1968 quite famous paper in Science, Tragedy of the Commons by one Garrett Hardin, modern economists, like the Nobel Prize winner pictured here, Elinor Ostrom, don't think that that's a very good argument. And it's essentially based on a flawed metaphor. Right? She takes a more nuanced view and says that common pool resources are generally governed at least as sustainably as private held resources, and usually much more stably. And her book, Governing the Commons, offers 8 principles for designing and maintaining a successful commons. I'm just listing them here real briefly. We'll go over how these relate to Creative Commons and intellectual commons later on. Now, in England, the commons were gradually taken up by private landlords through the Enclosure Acts in the 17th and 18th centuries. And it was believed that farmers working the land in common were not reaping the full benefits of the land, that private landholders would have a greater incentive to ramp up the intensity of agriculture. You know, the purpose here was to make more intense agriculture on the land, to get more product out of the land. The result was an economic boom for a certain wealthy elite and widespread environmental destruction, particularly in Ireland. It also constructed a new landholding class, not quite nobles, not quite industrialists, something between. Japan also enclosed many of those commonly held lands, but not all of them. And village councils still control mountains and forests all across the island chain up to the present day. CPR rules in Southern California have held back a lot of the worst effects of drought, not entirely, and there's still a drought going on, but they were able to manage the resources to some equitable degree. So the point here is that the private ownership over resources is relatively new in human history, and it's by no means universal. There are other models for managing how we use our resources. That brings us to the topic of intellectual property. So what about ideas, the ownership of those ideas? Well, a picture of Mickey Mouse is not much like a piece of land. Looking at the picture doesn't destroy it, right? Copying Star Wars onto a VHS tape and giving it to a friend doesn't reduce the amount of Star Wars in the world in the way that, say, leaching off a reservoir or using too much of a field for grazing your sheep might reduce the supply of those resources. Now, although patents have existed since the Italian Renaissance, copyright law dates to the 18th century, concurrent with a lot of the enclosure movements. Of course, there's arguments for and against both patents and copyrights. My purpose here is not to tell you that they're great or that they're evil or either way. My purpose is in an intellectual commons, in carving out a space for ideas that are not owned, ideas that are shared. So increasingly, things that once belonged to all of us and to none of us now belong to a handful of owners. Cinderella, Hercules, The Little Mermaid, Beauty and the Beast, Sleeping Beauty, Thor, Mulan. These didn't belong to anyone until a mouse bought them up. Now, you can still use these stories. You can still make new content based on these ideas, but fly too close to the sun, you'll risk a letter from Disney's lawyers. And their efforts have extended the length of copyright so far that they might as well be infinite. Copyright began with the Statute of Anne in Great Britain in 1710, and that granted publishers a 14-year monopoly. Mickey Mouse was created in 1928, but there is no doubt that he's still the sole property of the Big D and will be for many years to come. Japan is a signatory to the Berne Convention, so that means that technically they only recognize foreign copyrights for up to 50 years after the death of the author. That means that all of Walt Disney's creations ought to have been public domain in Japan since 2016. But I, for one, do not have the courage to try to publish a manga adaptation of Steamboat Willie. Good luck to you if you do. So, the open culture movement proposes to carve out an area that is explicitly for sharing. These are not for sole private ownership. These are for all of us. So projects like Wikipedia and Project Gutenberg are attempts to make an intellectual commons, a resource that belongs to all of us and to none of us at once. Now, there are different levels of involvement. Creators can choose how much sharing they're comfortable with. So David Revoy's webcomic, shown on the left here, is Pepper and Carrot. His comics can be shared, remixed, and redistributed freely, as long as whoever's using it credits the author. That's his only restriction. Give him credit, and you can share his comics anywhere you like. You can even sell them, as long as you credit him. I released a series of videos about English phonology and pronunciation on YouTube under a slightly more restrictive license. I require you to attribute me, and anything you make, you must also share. I don't mind if you make money on it. I don't mind if you make changes to it, but it must also be for sharing, because to me, it's most important that the ideas that I've put out here are accessible. Even Dungeons and Dragons has been in on the game for about 21 years now. In 2000, the company Wizards of the Coast allowed creators to make spin-off adventures with their D&D rules and even sell them for profit. And the result was a massive explosion in role-playing games. The R project is statistical software. It's on a very different sort of licensing scheme, but it's also free software, free to download, free to distribute, free to make changes to if you have the programming knowledge. Now, many of us use the Creative Commons license to do this, to share things, but also protect our interests and make sure that people can't take advantage of our work. So it allows us to mark things as shareable, but also prohibit other people from claiming it as their work, which would allow them to come back and sue the original creator for copyright infringement. And no creator wants that. So Creative Commons licensing is one way that you can share your work and contribute to the commons, but still put reasonable limits on how people can use your work. The most basic limit is attribution. People who use your work, redistribute it, or remix it have to tell people that you made it. So that's just a simple CC BY license. It tells readers they're free to use what you've made in their projects. They can put it up on their website for download. They can even sell it as long as they explicitly tell people that you made it. A step up from there is the CC BY SA license, or Attribution Share Alike. So this one says that people can use your work and share it and remix it and redistribute it, but they need to do two things. First, they need to attribute the work to you. So if you share my YouTube videos, you must first say, Jeff Moore made this somewhere. And second, they need to release whatever derivative work they make under a similar sharing license. So if somebody wants to take my YouTube videos and put a dubstep beat behind it and make the next club jam, they can, but they also have to release it as a free and shareable product. Now, this is the big reason why all of my slides have the CC BY SA icon in the bottom left, is because I often use a lot of these resources to make my own stuff. The picture you see in the background is under a CC BY SA license. So I also have to release it under a share-alike license. Everybody who reuses and remixes those things has to do a share-alike license all the way down the line. Further step up is to prohibit commercial use of your work. And this is what Bricolage Teacher does. Totally reasonable. It protects you in a lot of ways. I know I would be less than thrilled to see my work being used to sell advertising, for example, although I understand that a lot of websites need the ads to pay for servers. Using this license lets you opt out of having your work used for products that you don't support. And increasingly, I've been thinking about using this myself, but I still feel like it's more important to me to have my work be accessible. And so if people want to use it for commercial products, it doesn't particularly bother me. Now, adding a no derivatives mark is the strictest license that still allows sharing. People can rehost your work in its complete original form, but they cannot edit it. This might be a good choice for a very complete and packaged product. So if, for example, you make a photo essay about refugees, you don't want your photos to be removed from their original context and used to sell male enhancement pills, right? This could be a good choice. The license says, go ahead, use my work, share it, redistribute it, but make no changes because I want my vision for the work preserved. So going back to the topic of designing a stable commons and how the Creative Commons license works into that, the economist Elinor Ostrom says that a successful commons is clearly defined. It says what it is and who has access to it. Well, the Creative Commons license tells people how they're allowed to use it and who's allowed to use it and who the creators are and so on. Adapts to changing local conditions. It's not very restrictive, right? So you can use the license that works for your particular needs. Managed democratically by its users, anybody can join the Creative Commons team and vote on how they're going to change things in the future. And the person using it themselves gets to choose the license that they use. It's not a top-down thing, right? You can choose any of the Creative Commons licenses or none as you choose. Monitoring is a difficult thing. There is no monitoring system for the Creative Commons licensing system. So creators themselves sort of have to be on their toes about people using their work and go after them on their own. That's kind of a downside to it. There's not this large infrastructure around backing up your rights. It also doesn't have any particular sanctions for rule breakers, nor does it have very good conflict resolution mechanisms, but it is recognized by many, many governments in different forms. So, and a small plug, we are actually discussing this book in a separate group later on Sunday. So if you're deeply interested in the topic of the commons, come join us. Now, the thing I want to really drive home here is that I want to encourage you to share as much as you can in the ways you're comfortable, right? There's a growing movement toward free culture, free in two different meanings. Free in the sense that you have freedoms. So an open license says that private individuals and companies don't have the right to infringe on your freedom of speech. They can't tell you how to use a picture, a piece of text, a character, a piece of music. David Revoy's webcomic, his fantasy webcomic I showed earlier, you are allowed to use his characters in any way that you like, as long as you attribute him. They also maintain your freedom to share and remix in that way. But many of these licenses are also free culture in the sense that it doesn't cost any money. So Wikipedia, Project Gutenberg, they run off to donations. Irastoya provides their images free of charge. These are ways that they can contribute and make very accessible resources for people. Now, the law in Japan. Well, in Japan, all rights are by default held by the author. It's called a presumption of authorship. This includes moral rights, which are non-transferable. So an author has the exclusive right to decide how their work is released, and they have exclusive rights over the integrity of their work, whether or not people can change it, remix it, whether they can make derivative works from it. Economic rights are the other form of author rights, and these can be transferred. Most often, this is how creators of creative works get paid, is by selling the rights to their works to companies that then reproduce them and sell them. So economic rights include the right to reproduction and communication of the work and adaptations. Now, an explicit license gives you standing in court if someone borrows your work and tries to claim that you're infringing on theirs. So a dated document with your Creative Commons mark shows prior work. That means that it shows to a court that you have made this before the other one, and therefore their copyright claim is invalid. Unfortunately, it's not the equivalent of registering a copyright in Japan. It is in the US and in many other Western countries. In Japan, you must register with Bunkacho if you actually want to have a registered copyright control over your work. It's not an incredibly difficult process, but it is some paperwork. Honestly, unless you're planning to make a commercial product out of it, it's probably not worth doing, because that's the purpose of the system, is protecting commercial products. So in Japan, the Creative Commons mark acts as a statement of your preferences as a creator. It's not really an ironclad legal contract. It's more of a defensive thing to make sure that you won't be sued by people who take your work and then make derivatives of it. So these days, there are more free resources available than at any time in human history, right at your fingertips. You've got Wikipedia, Wikimedia, Project Gutenberg, providing most of human knowledge right at your fingertips, right there in your pocket on your cell phone. The Internet Archive giving even more access to all sorts of documents that have been on the internet before. But there's many, many others. I'd also like to point out YouTube is where I've got my stuff up, and you can release things under a Creative Commons license there. Unfortunately, Google does not promote content that uses a Creative Commons license. So you will languish in obscurity, as I have, but it's a useful place for me to put things to give to my students. Khan Academy is not actually under a free license, but they do provide their stuff for free to others. It's wholly owned by Khan Academy, but they're a nonprofit. Right? Bricolage Teacher actually does allow you to share your resources in a totally free way, should you want to. But Bricolage Teacher also lets you choose what kind of rights you want to keep, if you want to keep the right to sell your products, for example. So I'll leave my takeaway ideas up on the slides here and open up to any questions, comments, quibbles, corrections. Go ahead.
Before we go to Q&A, may I suggest that we open up our microphones and give Jeff a big round of applause. Well done, sir.
Thank you.
Questions from anyone? I didn't see anything in the chat specifically for the presentation, Jeff, but if I might start.
Please.
Okay, I'm sorry, I got taken away kind of partway through, so I don't know I'm going to be asking something that's going to make me look like an idiot because you actually gave the answer during the presentation. But I am now considering what I'm going to do about a particular teaching method that I have made. And I'm thinking about plainly how to both get it out to teachers so they can use it and how to monetize it. I'm very enamored of the whole concept of what Creative Commons offers and how it protects both me and everyone else that's using it. Now, if I was to say to myself, okay, there's this part of what I do that I want everyone to be able to freely access. And right now, I want to just get it out there and I want to do slides based on it. I want to do maybe a couple of videos based on it. And I want to make my major public presentations based on it. But if someday, and I put that under CC, okay, now when I say under CC, I'm not being specific about, no derivatives, share alike, because the question comes from here. If I wanted to have a CC designation that I could remove at any point in time, is there such a CC designation? Like if I went share alike and attribute on this particular essay that I wrote, and then I realized, wow, that's a pot of gold, and I want to actually put that into print so then I can sell it. Is there a way that I can personally revoke the license that I put on it myself, so that then I can take it and put it in a book?
Under Japanese law, even the Creative Commons license you put on there isn't legally binding. So in a technical sense, you can do absolutely whatever you like with that, with a CC mark. But people just might be a bit miffed that they were sort of led to believe that they could share something and then you've pulled back on it. I would say that the ethical way to go about that is to release sort of a prototype of it under a Creative Commons license, and then make a derivative work of that, which could just be adding on to it, right? That is under a closed license. So in this case, you would want to first choose a non-share alike license.
Non-share alike.
Right. So if it's share alike, then any derivative that you make, well, you're promising that other people are allowed to make derivatives of it as long as they also share, right? Now, if you go ahead and make a derivative of your own work and don't make it under share alike, you're legally allowed to do that, right? You're legally allowed to kind of stop that chain of sharing at any point with your own work. But it's a bit of a faux pas, right? Because you've told other people they're not allowed to do that, but you are. So I would say the sort of non-faux pas way to do that is initially release it under a license that doesn't have share alike. So I'll pop over to the broad listing of kinds of licenses. Basically, these function as a kind of yes/no answer system. You decide yes, no to each of these questions as you go down the line, right? So if you want to say that sharing or remixing is not allowed, then you would leave off the share alike part of it. You can just do CC by. Right. People have to attribute to you. Right. And you could say CC by in C, non-commercial, to say, not only do you have to attribute to me, you're also not allowed to make money off of it.
Okay. But I can make derivatives of it, and that derivative work is based on the CC content, but because it's derivative, it is not the CC content.
That's right.
That I do not have to release, or it is not bound by any previously created licenses on the original material.
That's right. Yeah. And to bring this into kind of a practical thing for an academic, let's say that you've got something that you want to get right out there out of your doctoral dissertation. you can throw that out under a CC license and then make a derivative work off of that. Do something that kind of polishes up chapter 4 and put that out as a commercial product. And you're well within your rights as a creator to do that. In fact, you're well within your rights as a creator to take anything you've done in Creative Commons and then come back and say, I'm going to make a work based on this that is not open.
Okay, good.
But the community doesn't like that very much. You know?
Okay. And I'm really sorry, Jeff. We ended up with just being able to answer my question. But there are a couple of questions from Jennifer, and it's not a question, but I think we have maybe about 20 seconds left. Have you actually written an article for this that goes on bricolage.com?
I don't believe I have, no.
Please do so, because this is that I don't know if you consider this important information, but like to see this in print and having a way to refer to this would be great. Unfortunately, Doug Strabel is here, and he's the host for the next presentation. Everybody, one more round of applause for Jeff and Denver.
Yeah.
Okay,
thanks very much.
Yeah, don't forget to finish the recording. And actually, Jeff, if you know YouTube well enough, maybe you could show Jennifer how to set those up and send them to YouTube, and then do the and then you, because you got to do your own upload of the video. If you can maybe show her that too, that would.
bird on a tree. I'm just sitting here. I got time, it's clear to see. From up here, the world seems small. We can sit together. It's so beautiful, you and me. We meant to be in the great outdoors, forever free. Sometimes you need to go and take a step back to see the truth of bird on a tree. I'm just sitting here. I got time, it's clear to see. From up here, the world seems small. We can sit together. It's so beautiful, you and me. We meant to be in the great outdoors, forever free. Sometimes you need to go and take a step back to see the truth around you. From a distance you can tell. You and me were meant to be in the great outdoors, forever free. You and me tree. I'm just sitting here. I got time, it's clear to see. From up here, the world seems small. We can sit together. It's so beautiful, you and me. We meant to be in the great outdoors, forever free. Sometimes you need to go and take a step back to see the truth around you. From a distance you can tell